How is it going, everybody? Today, we have Stream League 6, sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. Here I am today, joined with JimDavisMTG. How is everybody doing? I'm super excited to see what the new historic metagame looks like after Innistrad Midnight Hunt. What do you think about this tournament, Jim Davis? And give us an overall what you expect to see, what cards maybe you're excited about seeing. Give us some insight on your end, Jim.
I'm excited because for me personally, the focus has been entirely on standard. You know, big rotation, Eldraine leaving, and all that. So now we're kind of turning our focus to historic to see. We saw the Arena Open last weekend. Not to toot my own horn, nothing, but the Mono Red Madness deck that I played was doing pretty well for some people. It was kind of an exciting new one. And then now we get to see this whole new influx of cards from Innistrad. I'm sure we're going to see a lot of considers. And I'm not really sure yet, honestly. It's going to be exciting. It's kind of I haven't really looked at the cards from the historic angle yet, mostly for standard. So we're going to see how things flesh out and see what goes where.
Yeah, I've been working on a few decks myself, and I've been playing some standard too, and it seems like, from the standard perspective, which is way different than historic right now at this point, there's a lot of cool werewolves decks, there's a lot of cool spirits decks, spirits cards that I can see seeing play. I know we have a spirits list that will be seeing play in this historic tournament right now, so excited to see where some of these cards lie. I tried to see if there's some cards that I can fit in my Niv-Mizzet Reborn deck, of course, because they know I just love my Niv-Mizzet Reborn. Trying to see if there were some cards that I can slot into some decks, but I'm excited to see if some of the cards make the cut for historic. Historic is a very I would say unforgiving format sometimes, especially for new cards coming in from standard sets. But there are some cards that can really crack the historic format here. One of them specifically being Delver of Secrets, which is a brand new card here introduced from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. So I'm excited to see that card. Also some Dragon Rage Channeler action. Maybe there's an Izzet deck with both of those cards in it. Speaking of Delver of Secrets, which is an iconic card, do you see that card kind of being in Dragon Rage Channeler decks? Maybe what do you expect to see out of that card in historic right now?
I'm a pretty big Delver naysayer. I played a lot of Delvers in my day in Legacy, but two major reasons. One is that there was no Brainstorm, there was no Ponder, no Brainstorm anymore, I guess, right? No Ponder. Historic does have Memory Lapse, so it does, have sort of that cheap counterspell that standard lacks. But without Brainstorm or Ponder, Delver's pretty unreliable. That's problem number one. And then problem number two is power creep. Have you seen Dragon's Rage Channeler? It makes Delver of Secrets look like Merfolk with the Pearl Trident, So the question here, of course, is, are there enough tools to make Delver good enough? No Brainstorm, no Daze, things like that. And then is Delver even good enough if it is good enough compared to things like Dragon Rage Channeler and Friends, So I'm a pretty big Delver of Secrets naysayer, huge naysayer in standard. And I think in historic, as long as Brainstorm remains on the suspend list, I think Delver is going to be mostly a non-factor.
Yeah, I was watching a little bit of Jeff Hoogland stream, and he was playing a Delver of Secrets deck. And mind you, it was in standard, but he's talking about historic when he was talking about this, and he said, basically, why would you play Delver of Secrets when you have Dragon Rage Channeler? And I was thinking about that, and I didn't really play Legacy or Modern and things like that even before Dragon Rage Channeler was a card. And then Delver of Secrets is kind of like Dragon Rage Channeler's baby, right?
Yeah,
I don't have much experience playing in Modern or Legacy, and I know that you do. So, as far did Dragon Rage Channeler just take Delver of Secret's spot?
Yeah, Dragon Rage Channeler is everything Delver has always wanted to be, because the big thing is that you have cards in Magic that are enablers and cards that are payoffs, right? And the big thing in the last few years has been a lot of the enablers are also the payoffs, and Channeler just does it all. It obviously you need to try and get Delirium to turn it on, right? To make it enable it. But it also just enables itself because it's constantly putting cards in the graveyard while also filtering your draws for the cheapest possible cost when you're already doing what you want to be doing anyway, which is just cast spells. So Dragon Rage Channeler is just an unbelievable card, and it doesn't really need much help because it gives itself the own help. Whereas Delver of Secrets is just like, yo, it's your top card instant or sorcery? No? All right, I'll see you next turn. So Delver needs a lot more hand holding than Channeler does.
You said how cards are becoming the enabler and the payoff, and Dragon Rage Channeler is a good example of that. but is the closest thing. I mean, this is probably outlandish. Okay, medium take here, but as far as enabler and payoff, like the new, like, isn't that like exactly what Uro was?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, Uro, like, I guess didn't necessarily put cards into your graveyard for itself, but it just velocity-wise got the game rolling to a point where you were just drawing more spells and casting more spells and staying alive. And that was kind of the problem with Uro, where Uro actually did everything. You know, most cards are a threat or a small recursive element or card draw, and it was just all three at once all the time. So yeah, very, very similar idea. Where cards like Uro, Dragon Rage Channeler, just sort of like new age of Magic design, where the cards, you don't need peanut butter and jelly. Every card is just a full sandwich by itself.
I mean you said it perfectly right there. I'm looking into the tournament here, starting in round 1 in a few minutes here. As far as the tournaments that are as far as the deck lists that are currently in this tournament right now from the streamers that are playing, irregardless of that, if you could pick a deck playing Historic right now after Innistrad Midnight Hunt, what would you be playing?
I mean, I gotta say, I really do like the Mono Red Madness deck that I played last weekend in the Arena Open. It's just an awesome mix of, it's aggressive, but it can go long, it can interact really well, it's doing powerful things. You know, we're seeing a lot of these sort of new, you know, design cards in it, Dragon Rage Channeler, Unholy Heat, and Friends. The Madness cards are really cool, but you don't always use the graveyards. It's a good mixture of things. I don't know if I got anything from Innistrad. I haven't like really looked at the card list super closely. I would imagine it probably didn't. That's what I would personally play. Just isn't a very fun Innistrad Midnight Hunt answer. But personally, if I had to play a tournament right now, that's what I would play.
Well, Midnight Hunt comes out, doesn't give me a Midnight Hunt answer. What kind of commentator is this?
I know, right? I know. Boring.
Right, so,
the boring, you know, I could have given some like, oh, I would play the werewolves, this, and that deck. But yeah, I mean, that's my honest answer. Honesty's never fun. Honesty's never fun.
It's always the actually, there's a card in that deck that I think is worth mentioning that you didn't name. Is Pyromancer, right? Discard 2 cards, draw 2 cards. Also has Recursion. Like, that card's in the Madness deck too, or maybe you're not playing it.
Oh, there's 4 of that card. Yeah, that card's phenomenal.
Oh yeah, the whole name is something Pyromancer. I forget names all the time. It's something Pyromancer. It's a great card.
Seasoned Pyromancer.
Seasoned Pyromancer. I almost said Young Pyromancer 3 times. It's just not that card. Now that deck got Blazing Root Walla, things like that. But let's go ahead and focus towards this tournament. If you have MTG Melee up and you can see the tournament and what decks are being played, what deck do you have a couple favorites on what you think could take the Stream League 6 home?
I'm gonna have to open up that tab right now. Sorry, I was in the.
That's okay. Being unprepared is fine. no. All right. So, from this tournament, we have a bevy of awesome tournament players, also content creators and streamers playing in this tournament. Arne Huschenbeth playing here as well, which is a top 8 tournament competitor. We have Ali Eldrazi, amazing streamer, bunch of different people, Talia Vess in this tournament. So they have chosen their favorite decks, or, you know, a deck they think they're going to win, cough, cough, Jeskai control. And we're going to be looking at some of the deck lists here to see what we think will take the cake. For those of you who haven't seen a Stream Leagues event before, done 5 of them in the past. It is proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. You can type in !! Cool Stuff in the chat to get 5% off your order by typing in Jim Davis, or is it Jim Davis at checkout or James 5 at checkout?
For me, it's Jim 5.
Jim 5 or James 5 at checkout, whichever your favorite one is. But speaking of this, the winner of the top 8 will contain $1,000 of prize support from CoolStuffInc.com in store credit. And CoolStuffInc.com is awesome because you can get everything. There are sleeves, there are deck boxes, there are binders, there is sealed product, there's new sets, there's pre-releases, there's pre-orders, singles, basically anything you can think of, you can get from CoolStuffInc.com. Had to show that there. But looking at the deck list here, I don't know. I think I'm a big Ali Eldrazi fan in these tournaments. He's played in a couple other Stream Leagues before. He's top 8'd one, top 4'd the other one. I believe he made the finals with Niv Mizzet Reborn against Mono Black Aggro on the last one. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at Ali Eldrazi's deck here. He is playing 5 color, go figure. And we have a Tameo in this deck as well. 4 Territorial Kavu, and my favorite card, Niv Mizzet Reborn. How could you enter a tournament and not play Niv Mizzet Reborn? Can you answer that question, Jim Davis?
It's a hard one to answer because it is so fun. It's just the best Muldrifter of all time. Instead of being a 2/2 for 5 that draws 2 cards, it's a 6/6 for 5 that draws 5 cards, and they're always spells too. So yeah, it is a very, very fun card. Really, really awesome design.
Now we have a Hydroid Krasis. We have a lot of 1-ups here. 1 Klothys, 1 Orcus, 1 Hydroid Krasis. We have a Faceless Agent in here as well. That's the interesting card. You can't get this card off of Niv Mizzet Reborn, but you can play this card and like to seek a creature or the most prevalent creature in your library, and that would be Niv Mizzet Reborn, right?
Yeah, or the Kavu. But the cool thing there is that yeah, it's sort of like a weird Goblin Matron that either finds you 2 of your best cards, Territorial Kavu or Niv Mizzet Reborn, and that's really cool. You know, it's when you see Faceless Agent, you look at it. It feels like a tribal card. Obviously, you play it in your Merfolk deck. Basically, you play it in whatever tribal deck you want to play, and it gives you a little extra bonus, especially if your tribe is a little more, out there and doesn't have as many cards in the deck. But here it's being used a little bit differently and kind of abusing the seek mechanic a little bit because there only are 4 dragons, there only are 4 Kavus, so it's going to find one of those 2. So you have this sort of weird matron effect. It's 2/1, it comes into play, it's card advantage, you can block something, make a trade or 2, and then guarantees you have one of your key cards.
Yeah, that's like the most interesting thing I've never even heard. Like, I've heard of this card, of course, but I haven't seen it being used in this way. It'd be crazy to have like 3 Territorial Kavus in the deck and just always get the Niv Mizzet Reborn. But Territorial Kavu is such an amazing addition to this deck. Because speaking of cards that do everything, like Uro and Dragon Race Channeler, this is a 2-mana 5/5 that also exiles cards from your opponent's graveyard and also discards cards to draw cards. Like honestly, what more could you want?
Yeah, I think I remember reading like a Sam Black article where the first version of it also had like a disenchant effect on the attack trigger also, and they had to tone that one down a bit. But yeah, very much a 2021 design, just like it's a threat, it's big, it does all its things, it's just kind of like just a full package.
All right, looking at another deck here, we're going to be having round 1 starting in just a minute. Let's look at a different deck here. We have the Niv Mizzet Reborn. He's done very, very well in the past. Let's look at something else here. We have JimDavisMTG here playing one of his favorite decks. He said he couldn't enter this tournament without playing Riding Regisaur. So we're going to be seeing some big dinosaurs here in this tournament as well. We have 4 Riding Regisaur, 4 Llanowar Elves, just playing Golgari. We have like a Golgari Stompy-ish style deck. Scavenging Ooze, Pelt Collectors, Werewolf Pack Leaders. Let's see if there's any cards from the new set. I don't think there is. We have a Collected Company, Primal Might, Ranger class, bunch of lands. Yeah, just a straight Golgari mid-range deck. I mean, this
found one. There's Infernal Grasp in the sideboard.
Oh, there is. There's 2 Infernal Grasp.
Infernal Grasp.
There we go. Infernal Grasp in the sideboard. So I mean, that card is honestly, I think, might just be the best removal spell in Historic. Like maybe Fatal Push in decks that can utilize it. But if your deck can't utilize Fatal Push, like is Infernal Grasp the best removal spell in Historic?
I'm actually pretty low on this card.
Really?
I think that using it in the context of this deck is exactly where it wants to be. Because I think that you always want to be casting this card as long as you are the beatdown. If you are ever not the beatdown, you never want to cast this card. Because the life loss is sort of like a reverse Lightning Helix. So I think this card is extremely powerful in very proactive decks, making this the perfect home for it. I think it's a card you can't really just slot into your deck as like a Doomblade. Like you need to make sure that you have a very proactive plan, and the life loss is not going to hurt you. But if you do have a very proactive plan, then yes, it is very, very good. Just no worries. You know, the creature can be black. The creature can have a counter on it. The creature can be legendary. You know, no caveats at all. Your creature's dead. End of story. And then if you're aggressive, the life won't matter. So I think for aggressive decks, it is a very, very good addition.
Right. I didn't think about it actually in the context of like hard control decks because I don't play those decks. But
Sure.
or if I'm playing a control deck, I'm playing Niv Mizzet Reborn as kind of a control shell. And you wouldn't play that card in Niv Mizzet Reborn because why would you play that when you could be playing either Vanishing Verse or maybe even Lightning Helix. But in these aggressively slanted mid-range decks, playing black, maybe like, of course, especially in like Death Shadow decks would be perfect, right?
Yeah, it is very good.
That is the ideal card ever printed for that deck, right? Or not ever printed, but like it's just way up there. The stock goes even higher by losing 2 life off that card.
Yeah, that's a really good spot for it as well. I think this is the kind of card that's going to overperform in older formats and underperform in standard because the life's going to matter a lot in standard. But in a format like Historic, where things are very fast, cards like Rotting Regisaur or these big, huge threats are coming in really quickly. That's where it's going to shine, and also possibly is in farther back formats as well.
We're going to go ahead and we're going to get started with the Ninja. We're going to get started with the Ninja, and the Ninja is currently playing against. The Ninja will be currently playing against Medicus Dota. The Ninja is playing Jeskai, go figure, and Medicus Dota is playing Blue-Red Phoenix. Give us a little snapshot of Jeskai versus Blue-Red Phoenix as we enter this match.
I mean, this is like a classic Historic matchup, right? These are two decks that like at multiple points have been like the best deck in the format. And the Phoenix deck has the recursive elements, which is very nice, as well as the fast curve. And then the control deck obviously has things like Lightning Helix, Anger of the Gods, or whatever. So kind of a classic back and forth matchup. Should be very interesting. Going to be very important for the Phoenix player to get out early ahead of Teferi, and very important for our control player to be able to use cards like Anger of the Gods and things to exile things permanently.
All right, now I see the Ninja here has a hand of 4 lands, Memory Lapse, Archmage Charm, and Anger of the Gods. I mean, I could say what more could you want, but literally what more could you want? We have the Irrigated Farmland coming in tapped, which does make the Sulfur Falls here come in untapped, which is awesome. Irrigated Farmland does count as a Plains Island.
Yeah, the interaction between dual lands and these the tap lands and the buddy lands is very important for control decks. Being able to have that perfect mana, not take too much damage, it's huge.
Especially this Irrigated Farmland being able to be cycled if the Ninja doesn't have to use Memory Lapse is also super important. We see another Faceless Looting being fired off here. We know one thing that Medicus Dota probably isn't looking for lands. There was 2 lands dished off of this last turn.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet. Yeah, and then smart play by Ninja here, recognizing that Memory Lapse. Now, if this is a turn where Dota could play a 3rd spell and return Phoenixes, lapsing looting makes more sense. But here on turn 2, not much to worry about. And looting is, there's cards in the graveyard, whatever, it's fine. It's going to take time, cycle the farmland, and kind of keep rolling and hold that lapse for a better spot.
Now, if I'm the Ninja and the control player here, I'm okay with drawing lands right now. I can always choose to cycle this Rogren Triumph now if I don't have to use the Archmage Charm. A lot of blue mana in this deck in order to play Archmage Charm. What do you think? Do you think there are any cards that you should definitely take out of your deck if you're playing a 3-color deck playing Archmage Charm? Give us a little snapshot of what you have to do to play Archmage Charm in your deck.
You should be playing 0 to 1 lands that can't cast it. I think it is extremely important if you're playing Archmage Charm that almost every land in your entire deck can cast it. No Sacred Foundries, no Clifftop Retreats, no colorless lands. The card's great, but you gotta be able to cast it.
Now, Historic is getting better mana over the months and over the years when new sets come out. You don't have fetches, which does make it a little bit harder to cast Archmage Charm, so you really do have to take some mana considerations here. Which means that, I guess, Field of Ruin and cards like this become better because you're not playing a mountain and you're not playing a plains, right?
That is true. Yeah, so you gotta go lesser on basics, of course. You lose that on a bit of your utility as well, and that land's gonna be a little awkward because there only are so many lands tapped for blue. But between the triomes and the farmlands, those kind of pick up the slack on the 8 duels and 8 buddy lands you can play, but are in the blue red and blue white colors.
What are you thinking right now? What do you think the Ninja's thinking right now? Actually, like, Medicus Dota isn't really doing much, just casting Faithless Lootings. There's no pressure on board. There's no dragon. It's still at 20 life on turn 4. What are you thinking if you're the Ninja here?
If I'm the Ninja, I'm extremely happy right now. Because these looting's a great card, don't get me wrong, but it is card disadvantage. So turn 1 looting, turn 2 looting, turn 3 flashback looting is not exactly the most, promising start from our Phoenix player here. And now on turn 4, finally getting on the board but Ninja has 7 cards in hand. Ninja even has the Anger of the Gods, so if the Phoenixes do come back, Anger will mop that up. Anger mops up Channeler too. It's going to be hard for our Phoenix player to kind of like get things going without walking into the Anger, and if they don't get things going, then there's not enough time to get in before Gearhulk. So right now, I'd say our control player is in a phenomenal spot.
Right. I feel like in order for Meta Custodia to have a nice block, that Dragon Rage Channeler would have to come out on like turn 1 or 2. Turn 4 Dragon Rage Channeler isn't too exciting. Right,
and the problem is like now our control player is already set up. There's mana untapped, there's counter spells, there's things to work towards, there's Anger of the Gods. You know, it's very important for the Phoenix player to get in those first few turns while the control player is setting up, and then put them off balance, kind of go from there. So those first 3 turns just kind of spinning wheels is not a very good spot to be for our Phoenix player.
Especially the Ninja being able to hold that memory lapse in hand for this entire time,
right.
Never having to use it. It's just like my thing is when I'm playing against a control deck, I always want them to use the memory lapse as soon as possible, especially if I already have my land drops, because like it's very deflating when like it's the higher and higher mana cost and they could just cast it freely with also doing their other play. I mean, Teferi goes down and then you know they still have that memory lapse, a plus, and then at the end of the turn you know they still have that memory lapse. What if they didn't have that memory lapse and you just played into it on turn 2 or 3?
Yeah, and part of this is just Ninja kind of agreeing with our commentary here, where there hasn't really been a spell worth memory lapsing, which goes to show the weakness of our Phoenix player's first 3 turns.
Now, one thing going for the Phoenix player is they can do damage in a hurry. They can do damage out of nowhere. But with 3 Gearhulks in hand, I don't know if that's happening in this specific game.
Yeah, I mean, the good news for our Phoenix player is that there isn't actually an answer to this Channeler or Phoenixes yet, except for Anger of the Gods, which is sorcery speed. So if there were to be a flurry of Phoenixes entering the battlefield next turn, you know, I mean, they're going to get some damage in. Now, of course, the Gearhulk can flash back the Archmage's Charm and just steal the Channeler. Isn't really the best use of the Archmage's Charm, but it can kill it if necessary. And at this point, Ninja's so flush with resources that kind of throwing away a charm like that really isn't so bad. So we'll probably see the Phoenixes back here, but I think we'll also probably see the Gearhulk steal this Channeler, slow things down a little bit, and then just buy time for the Anger.
What are you looking to memory lapse in this spot if you're Ninja? Because you're just looking to not die, right?
Yeah, probably nothing. I'd be hard pressed to imagine a spell being cast this turn that was not Torrential Gearhulk. Wow, so no Phoenix return either. I mean, that's pretty interesting. That the Dota's hand must be pretty bad.
If Dota's hand's bad now, it was probably bad the entire game. Like maybe it was like a keep that wasn't a good hand trying to quote unquote get there with the 2 Faithless Lootings in hand, possibly.
Very, very possible. Yeah, I mean, seeing the Phoenixes not come back this turn is pretty weird. Let's see what the mode is here. It's gonna draw 2. Yeah, so this is a standard control play here. Just like trust your deck to draw some cards. Keep drawing cards. Keep going. The Anger can be cast here to kill these Channelers, but kind of want to save that for the 2 Phoenixes in the graveyard too. Mm-hmm. So we're in this weird spot where there's 9 cards in hand, but there aren't really the best answers to what's happening right now. So we'll see. Also, Gearhulk just turns the corner really fast too, so this can just turn into a Gearhulk attack for 10 kind of scenario as well.
Yeah, there's always that weird dance of playing against control decks, especially the ones with Gearhulk in it, because you know that Gearhulk's going to come down at some point if you can't stop it, and then all of a sudden you're just dead in 2 turns, right?
Right. And it happens very quickly because the Gearhulk usually will counter a spell or kill something, which is already a huge tempo swing, and then it's just like, oh, they're untapped, they have 10 power in play, I'm dead.
Right. So you have to play that weird dance where like you also have to attack them while also keeping back a card to just jump a Gearhulk. At that point, you're just not in a good spot at all.
It's an interesting choice here. So the Anger can get fired off here, and now a little more vulnerable to the Arclight Phoenixes, but the Memory Lapse could possibly break up a 3-spell chain if that spell needs to involve cantrips or whatever. And it's also kind of weird because Dota's hand seems bad from last turn because the Phoenixes didn't return last turn. Mm-hmm. So what spells are going to make them come back this turn?
They would have to draw like maybe a looting off the top. Well, Opt is a good draw.
Yeah, it's a pretty easy heat here because now there need to be 2 spells in response to keep a dragon alive. And then even the Phoenix's return here, you know, even Gearhulk just flashing back the heat to kill one of them should probably win the race. I think if we see a looting flashback here, we're going to see this Memory Lapse.
Yeah, I can't really see what else would be happening for Meta Custodia right now. Considering
so again, this is very, very interesting because you lapse this if there's no 3rd spell, the game's basically over. But you're also memory lapsing a consider here, so it doesn't feel too good if they already have the third spell.
Well,
I guess they have the
they
looting and the
guaranteed have
graveyard
it,
as well.
right?
Yeah, so definitely you can let it resolve.
Now, Consider is one of the cards from Midnight Hunt that we see here that is actually a pretty good card for Phoenix here, right? In Modern, you have a card that kind of like mills one and draws a card. Isn't that a card that's in
Thought
Modern?
Scour, yeah,
It's
mill,
like,
mill 2, draw
yeah,
1.
Consider is like your Thought Scour of Historic, which like isn't that bad.
Consider's insane. Consider's like gonna be playable in Modern.
Yeah.
It's probably the best cantrip in Historic. It's probably gonna be, while not that exciting, the most impactful card for Eternal formats from Innistrad Midnight Hunt. That's not a count against the cards in Midnight Hunt. It just Opt is already a good playable card, and it's just much, much better than Opt.
Right. Just having that option to bin a Phoenix or something for Dragon Reach Channel or something for Delirium is just a little bit better than Scrying.
Yeah, and this is a pretty interesting spot because Ninja can't die here. Really needs to be aware of that. And Ninja wants to be able to cast Gear Hulk and also lapse a spell. And you can't really, if you Gear Hulk now, you can kill a Phoenix with the Bolt, but you have to shock in a land. It's a really awkward kind of song and dance because 8 life is not a lot here. And, a shock or two, a burn spell or two, and this game could end in a very awkward spot for a player who's very far ahead. So Ninja needs to be very careful here.
There's also a new card. There's a new shock that if it goes face, you scry one. Do you think that, does this Phoenix deck play that actually?
I mean, the deck's played shock before, so I mean, it's just a straight upgrade. It's kind of weird. Like there's a few like straight upgrade cards in the new set. Unsummoned, shock, and Opt are now all obsolete. Unsummoned and shock now have scry effects, and then Opt of course goes to the graveyard too. So yeah, I mean the new shock is great.
Now if some like this is what I was saying in the beginning of this game here. Like Medicus Dota had a bad hand, but like Phoenixes can get there in a hurry. Now Ninja's game plan is like, please don't die, right? And like, if these Torrential Gear Hulks can get through, then it's fine. But Ninja's pretty close to dead here.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be tough because there aren't many things that can block these Gear Hulks safely and also live through the Archmage's Charm. I guess Sprite Dragon can do it, or hard cast Phoenix. I guess like a storming entity as well. But I mean, there's just so much mana available for Ninja and card draw and everything else. While also Ninja just is currently winning the game next turn. The dead on board right now for Dota, and needs to find some sort of blocker. It's gonna be tough. At 5 life for Ninja, it's probably enough.
Hitting the iteration there seems a little bit weird to me. Like maybe you cast the iteration and look at the next 3 cards, see if you can get a blocker.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously things need to be done here. Oh my god.
Okay.
So the problem is the memory lapse. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's one mana untapped. So this will do it, but I mean, doing it here is just killing 1 Gear Hulk for almost all your resources. So still a Gear Hulk in play. No answer to the second Phoenix yet, technically, but many cards to draw.
It's interesting that Medicus Dota is in a spot where like they can actually take this game, which is really something I would not have thought about in the beginning of this game. Like, turn 4 Dragon Reach Channeler, not something you want to be doing.
Oh my god. All right, so
wow,
that was a great last card to have. All right.
How about another Gear Hulk?
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, the Ninja hasn't drawn a single Lightning Helix yet. Has drawn very little spot removal. Drawn all 4 Gear Hulks. I mean, now you gotta just draw cards and pray, right? I mean,
wow.
Nothing to flash back. So the only option here is to draw 2 with Archmage's Charm and, tap a top of deck for your Lightning Helix. Would be a cheesy win if
yes.
If Dota could pull this off.
Yes, it would be a cheesy win, but the line was found.
For sure, yeah. It's the Dota fully recognized that this game is going to be a cheesy win. That's part of being a good Magic player, understanding the fact that when you need to just put your chips out there and hope it works out.
Don't be afraid to cheese. You've heard it from Jim Davis himself.
Yeah, I mean, realistically, you're not winning the game if it goes long, and there's a Magma Opus. That's not going to do it.
Wow.
This game's over. Just the kind of game that Ninja's going to look back on and be like, oh my god, how did I lose this game? I think the big thing was that Anger of the Gods. Like I said, when Ninja burned that Anger on those 2 channelers, those Arclight Phoenixes are still in the graveyard, and didn't need to use the Archmage's charms to draw as many times as possible. Could have used the charm to steal one of the channelers. It wouldn't have Delirium, at least not at that point, but it's still just like a Doomblade. And when you're already flush with cards and ahead, a Doomblade's better than more card draw because you avoid the ability to get cheesed out. So this is what Ninja's gonna look back on and not be too happy about, I think, how those early turns played out.
Right, and the Ninja definitely has gotten really far in these events and has done really well with it. And he always usually plays Jeskai control or Dimir control or something like that. He's a very, very, very good player, and it just shows that Phoenix can really just be a little bit grindy and just get a win out of nowhere in spots like this that we just never thought that Meta Custodia ever had a chance in this game.
For sure, yeah, and Ninja, no qualms against Ninja's play here because they're playing just sort of your standard control game. When you cast like Gearhulk and you decide to draw 2 and not steal the channeler, that's just level 1 control play. You just want to keep drawing cards and keep going. The cards didn't come, but the problem is that the reality of the situation was that the way this game's going to be lost is by being cheesed out. So don't play your normal game. Just play the game that says, I don't want to get cheesed out because I can't lose any other way. So I think the crux of that game was flashing back the charm and drawing 2 and not stealing a channeler, thereby having to use anger, thereby allowing the Phoenixes to get you if you don't draw anything, and then thereby not drawing anything and losing. So there's many, many steps from that point, where you could easily just draw a Lightning Helix or something like that and won the game anyway. But I think that was the crux of the game, that one turn.
Yeah, being forced to use that Anger of the Gods and the Phoenixes just being there till the end of the game was really the thing that brought that game down for the Ninja. Let's see if the Ninja can put the pieces together for games 2 and 3 here. I would say that specific game, if I'm the Ninja, that's my game to win. That was my game to win. All I have to do is not die in this game. It turned out that the Ninja died, so now games 2 and 3, a little bit more pressure on the Ninja here.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely, and I think that in that game, I would say that 80% of the time, Ninja just draws a Lightning Helix and wins the game and never thinks twice about it. Yep. But that's the spot where you get that little edge where you kind of hedge yourself from losing that 10%er, losing that 15%er. That's where the highest level professionals, they don't lose those games, those thin margins, even when they get unlucky, because they find the way to make sure they're not going to get unlucky. Yep. That was a very unlucky circumstance there. Drew all 4 Gearhulks before drawing 1 Lightning Helix. It was a weird game, but you got to plan for those weird games too.
Also, there could have been a lot of cards drawn, right? I mean, Teferi, another Anger, even Prismari Command could just kill the Phoenix with no cards in Meta Custodia's hand.
Oh yeah, there were over a dozen or more draws over 6 or 7 draw steps, for sure that would have won the game. But again, you got to plan for that eventuality of I'm not going to draw an answer for 6 turns, but I'm flush of resources if the game goes longer. What should I do? So It's definitely an interesting game.
Right. I did remember saying, when on turn 4 or 5, I was like, well, I mean, all you got to do if you're the Ninja here is just not die, right? The only thing you care about is not dying.
Yeah, and then also well played by Dota too, recognizing that a lot of the times I'm just going to run my spells in here and lose anyway. Yep. But I got to just run them and hope that 10%er happened, and there it was. So
Yep. That's just good sight by Meta Custodia, realizing that he was in that position to have to go for it there.
Absolutely. Yes, and then that's just the making sure you don't lose those 10%er games, on the winning side is important for a good play. The other side's true as well, where understanding when it's all right, here's my cards, here's my Arclights, I'm just going to cheese you out and hope you don't have it, because that's the best way to win. I don't want the game to go long either, so here's my cards, hope it happens. I did.
All right, we see this hand a little bit short on mana here. If we draw a land, we can cast this Archmage Charm to draw cards to try to draw some more lands, but looking a little in trouble if we don't find another land from the Ninja side.
Yeah, I mean, with Memory Lapse and Helix, there's a lot of play here as far as buying time. So hand looks pretty good for Ninja, and of course Narcissus is also very, very good against the Arclight Phoenix deck.
A little bit better Faithless Looting than last game on Meta Custodia's side.
Yes. Big turn here. I don't really even know what There's nothing. And now, of course, things are a little bit different too, because now Dota gets to bring in some counter spells as well and interact on a different axis than game one. So that becomes the scary part for Ninja, where now, you know, that Anger of the Gods could be countered by something, you know. So the game's going to slow down a little bit here.
I'm thinking a little bit for the Ninja side. Drawing that land's pretty good. That's what you were talking about, playing that one land that doesn't cast Archmage Charm. I mean, we're in that spot,
there
aren't
it is. There it is. It's not going to come up that often, but when it does, it's going to be absolutely backbreaking. You know, any blue land here, say go, end step charm, or counter something, or helix something phenomenal. But now you can't. That line of play is no longer open. So that's really tough. I feel like Ninja's currently cursing themselves, like, oh, the Sacred Foundry, God.
Like, why did I play this card in my deck? I mean, granted, they're probably playing it because they need their white sources for Helix and also need the red sources for Anger of the Gods. But come on!
For sure, yeah, exactly. You know, it's tough. So gonna go for the Narset into 6 cards with 2 open mana here. And there's your negate. So like I said, so the Arclight player now getting sideboard can actually have more tools to deal with the things from our control player.
I think the Ninja was taking the route of hope they don't have a counterspell, and then the looting is turned off. Lootings and extra lootings in hand are turned off. Narset's very, very good against Phoenix. Yeah,
no question. And then Dota seemed to realize that as well, because turn 2 go is kind of a weird play for the Phoenix deck. So good awareness on Dota's side, and then Ninja's just like, all right, here it is. You know, if it resolves, it's great. If it doesn't, that's fine. Hand's still pretty good. Still have a reactive spell, still have a card draw spell.
And right on time, drawing the untapped blue source. We wish they were just opposite.
Yep. And now we can see how Dota in game 1 kind of needs to just like get on the board and do the things. In game 2 and 3 with the counter spells, Dota can kind of shift back a little more into a little more of like a tempo control kind of role, pick their spots, cast iteration, draw cards, cast lootings, you know, and kind of just like let the game come to their pace rather than try and push the issue against Teferi and friends before things get too late. Mystical Dispute's a great card too. Also, the ability to counter Gearhulks or Teferis for 1 mana is huge. So we got 2 more Phoenixes in the bin, and now we see a Soul Guide Lantern from Dota, which is an interesting possible answer to Gearhulk plus Opus and things like that. Kind of interesting card to bring in, honestly. It's not a proactive card. It's not a spell or instant or sorcery for Arclight. So showing a lot of respect to Gearhulk.
Now, in my experience playing like tempo-y mid-rangey decks against Gearhulk, is that it's a bad matchup because you have to deal with a control deck, but you also then have to face down a 5/6. What's important with the Phoenix deck specifically is that every threat's a flyer for the most part.
Yeah, and also just the ability to counter Gearhulk too is huge.
That's
you know, the Mystical Dispute in particular, you know, countering their 6 mana spell for 1 mana is just absolutely backbreaking. You know, the Gearhulk's kind of card where if it resolves, it's very hard to deal with all the pieces of it. But if you counter it, you manage to stop everything before it actually triggers or whatever. So counter spells are a big one against the Gearhulk. I think we see more iterations here, and now we see our Phoenix player ahead on cards against the control player, with also multiple Phoenixes in the graveyard too. So now fighting from 2 angles here, where actually winning the card advantage fight, and then having the Phoenixes here as well waiting in the wings.
Also, Soul Guide Lantern to stop the Magma Opus and the Gearhulk is very smart as well. Also, not only is it smart, but it's also good because sometimes Soul Guide Lantern could be like a card disadvantage card until that time that you need it comes up, and sometimes you just have to draw from it because you need to. But the fact that there's a lot of cards in Metacustoda's hand and there's a Soul Guide Lantern in play, that's really good.
Yes. It's funny because Ninja could try and steal it with Archmage's Charm and you know, stop the graveyard stuff, but it can be sacked in response, obviously. That'd be pretty cool to steal it and then exile the Phoenixes, but...
Oh, oh my, why did you have to tell me that? Now I want it to happen, and it's not going to happen anymore. Oh my goodness.
It would require Dota to fall asleep at the wheel, but it would be pretty funny.
Sometimes you have to choose your lines, Jim. My line requires Metacustoda to fall asleep at the wheel. Okay, play to your outs.
All right, well, there's the 4th copy of Arclight Phoenix. Now, this is good and bad because there's an Anger of the Gods in Ninja's hand here. So this is a 12 ball worth of damage, but now everything's gone. And Phoenix is not a May. It must come back. So I'm actually questioning the wisdom there of wanting to discard the 4th Phoenix and put all the cards into Anger of the Gods. And then, of course, Dispute can be up, but Negate cannot. So Now Ninja's at 6, but every Phoenix is gone, and it's going to be hard to sneak those last few points through of his Helix and his memory lapse.
What kind of kind of kind of PogChamp is the Ninja doing right now? Exiling all 4 Phoenixes with Anger of the Gods. How often do you just get to do that? Usually when all 4 Phoenixes come out, you're dead, right? Usually when all 4 Phoenixes come out, you just die that turn. But like,
yeah,
he didn't die, went to 6, and also got to Anger of the Gods 4 Phoenixes. That's like the dream, right?
All right, so here's plan B, but again, now this turns on the memory lapse. Now we're going to see a Narset come down, which is also very good. And if his Narset comes down and stays in play, I mean, it turns off a large portion of the cards in Dota's deck. Now these opts, these considers, these lootings are all really awkward. You can always opt in your opponent's turn, but now the Crokeyz Drake won't draw a card when it comes into play. Looting does almost nothing. This is a real, a real problem. And now a lapse off the top here. Things are starting to look up for our control player.
Now we see kind of like a tipsy-turvy thing going on between Game 1 and Game 2. Game 1, Metacastoda looked out of it, steals the game at the last second. Game 2, the Ninja looks kind of out of it with all the card advantage on Metacastoda's side, and then all of a sudden, the Ninja starts to turn the corner. So let's see what happens at the conclusion of this game.
Yeah, and I think that the real choice there was to bin that 4th Phoenix. Was that necessary? Could the Phoenix have been held, player on the Anger, and then plenty of resources to get back the next Phoenix anyway? So, we'll see. It was definitely a gambit, and we'll see if it pays off or not with extra damage, and see if the remaining threats can take this down for Dota.
Maybe it's okay to do that if Metacastoda had an extra untap lane and maybe had another negate in hand or something. Then that would be very good, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe even then you don't want to do that because maybe the Ninja also has a counterspell plus Anger in hand too. So maybe you also don't want to do that either.
Yeah, the reality is that like in a post-board game, now that Dota has counterspells and a little more card advantage, stuff like that, Dota can play a bit of a slower game. So Dota can wait, just maybe do 2 Phoenixes at once, chip away a little bit, and defend with counterspells. So it was a very aggressive play. And we'll see if how it ends up working out. But Narset here is doing some work.
Yeah.
Just finding the Helixes, Unholy Heats. Heat's not there yet on Delirium. We also have a Magma Opus here ready to hardcast. Now again, Mystical Dispute's been up all game, has not been cast yet. So up every turn except for the turn that Narset was cast, where the Ramanap Ruins is up. So Dispute's still a very possible card as far as hardcasting Opus.
Got another Lightning Helix. The Ninja, realizing how he lost the last game, does not want that to happen again.
Yep. All right, so Heat will finish off the Narsets. Now, Dota's cards are back on as far as drawing cards and friends. But interesting spot here. This is all about Mystical Dispute because Ninja can Magma Opus, kill the Crokeyz Drake, make a 4/4, draw 2 cards, etc., etc. But if there's a dispute here, it's going to be backbreaking.
Mystical Dispute, let's go!
I'm saying Dota's got it.
Cross your fingers.
There it is.
Oh, we had it. I mean, it's still an uphill battle, kind of. Metacastoda, but there are 4 cards in hand. Still has that Lantern. Top deck Gear Hulk, the double Lightning Helix and the Crokeyz Drake could have happened. Could still happen. But we also do the Gear Hulk, so now we're kind of like, do we do these Lightning Helixes when Metacastoda's tapped out? We do know that Metacastoda has negate, or do we just go for the Torrential Gear Hulk?
Yeah, the problem, of course, is the Soul Guy Lantern in play, so the Opus is not actually available.
Yep.
So, look, it's not as good as a draw as it looked. When I saw it, I was like, oh my god, when it's gonna go. But yeah, I mean, probably still has to just double Helix to Drake and keep playing. And I think at that point, Dota's just ahead. Dota's got 4 cards in hand, 2 lootings in play. And this Gear Hulk is sort of neutered. However, it is also just a 5/6, which is rather large and does attack, but.
Do we see another Crokeyz Drake? Is there? I feel like there has to be like another Crokeyz Drake or another or like a Sprite Dragon here to, push Metacastoda past the finish line. There's literally nothing in play right now. It's a threat.
Yeah, but again, like I said, it's sort of interesting because now Dota has sort of like almost taken the control role away. Because there's more cards in hand, but still card draw coming. Dota's just way ahead on cards. We've seen multiple iterations. Still 4 cards in hand. Here's a Channeler. You know,
Dota smartly playing a land before the iteration, knowing that there's not going to be a land in exile. Smartly. We get a card in hand. We get a Dragon Rage Channeler. That's effectively a draw 2 from this expressive iteration. Mystical Dispute in hand. I mean, maybe that comes up. There is only 6 mana on Medicus Dota's side, but Mystical Dispute's definitely not going to get it here with 4 mana available.
Yeah, this is starting to look a little dicey. Of course, Gearhulk can come down just as a 5/6 and start swinging and try and race, but Sprite Dragon is a pretty hard card to race.
Also, it's a little hard to race because Torrential Gearhulk has to get 3 attacks in unless there's another Lightning Helix off the top for the Ninja. And that might just... 3 turns, I think, is like a little bit too much.
So I think this is a little bit of a misstep here from Dota. Sacrificing the Soul Guide Lantern in response to the Gearhulk itself. Now, if Ninja had like a Helix in their hand or an Unholy Heat or something like that, they could actually cast it still in response to the Gearhulk, and then flash back the spell they cast. Probably should have waited for the Gearhulk to come into play and target.
And that's actually going to be relevant here, right?
Right. So now, exactly. So now the Dispute's going to target Sprite Dragon, and the Gearhulk can now target the Dispute and then target Sprite Dragon again.
Wow.
So heads up play from Ninja by playing the Gearhulk in response to Sprite Dragon.
Oh.
We'll just see another Dispute anyway. It's not going to matter. Yeah.
Wow.
As I said, Mystical Dispute is very, very good against the control deck, countering basically all the major threats, and completely changes the dynamic of the matchup, where the Phoenix player now has this sort of get ahead early plan, as well as the way to stop what the control player is doing.
Good draw, because you get to kill the Sprite Dragon before it becomes a 4/4, which is relevant, or a 3/3 actually, because Unholy he doesn't have Delirium yet. But I mean, if I'm the Ninja, I think I just fire this off right now on that Sprite Dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. Before it can grow from instance, but even then, like now there's still Ramanap Ruins, there's still Dragon Rage Channeler, still 3 cards in hand and 2 lootings in the bin, and Ninja's got a lot of work to do here.
Yep, the Ramanap is going to put it at exact lethal next turn with the Dragon Rage Channeler, so the Ninja's going to have to draw a good card here. But just every time I think the Ninja's going to turn the corner, it's just like the Phoenix deck just does something to put the control deck in a bad spot, and then just takes advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of cards in Dota's hand. It's just cast 3 iterations this game. Just got way ahead on cards.
Wow. Now, do you expect that to be the norm, or did we see kind of an anomaly match there?
I think game 1 was an anomaly. I think that game 1, the Jeskai player is definitely ahead, especially with main deck angers and things like that. That was, as we said, Ninja's game to lose for sure. But I think game 2 and 3, the Phoenix is definitely favored. Once Mystical Dispute comes in, once Negate comes in, all of the Phoenix's players' threats are very resilient and cheap. And then, between the Arquettes coming back, Dragon and Dragon Rage Channeler costing only 1 and 2, and then these cheap counterspells where the control player has to resolve it's a Fairy or a Gearhulk or one of these big cards to do their thing. And the Phoenix player is very, very good at stopping that, while also playing cheap threats and drawing cards.
Yeah, one of the things about playing a control deck that doesn't have kind of mass exile, like a Rest in Peace or something, that I don't think that the Ninja was playing. One of the problems with that is that there's so many expressive iterations and so much card filtering, and so the Phoenix deck always gets exactly the cards they want to get, like most of the time. Sometimes you get those anomaly games like game 1, right? But something that's so hard to play against the Phoenix deck as a control deck is that sometimes you just have to draw what you need off the top, because the Phoenix deck has so many ways to draw discard, expressive iteration. Like, yes, the Jeskai deck has those same cards, but not as many of them, and everything's kind of recurable. So you kind of have to do the thing that the Ninja did, and was in a great spot actually, by casting that Anger of the Gods, exiling every single Phoenix. But Medicus Dota's sideboard was prepared for that and has additional threats in that sideboard as well to kind of counteract that. But the main thing in this game was actually just all the counterspells that were played. Usually in Phoenix decks, you want to use all of your spells on your own turn to bring your Phoenixes back.
Right.
But in that specific game, it was okay, like you were saying earlier, for the Phoenix deck to kind of do this little mid-range thing, a little tempo thing, hold back a little bit, play your threat, attack, counter like a Lightning Helix, counter a Gearhulk, counter a Mystical Dispute, whatever. And Mystical Dispute was definitely the MVP of that game.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think that what you said there is totally correct. That's why game 1 is rough, because you want all the cards in your Phoenix deck to be proactive, because if you cast an opt, cast an opt, and your third spell is a mystical dispute, you can't recur your Phoenixes, you're like, ah. So you really want all your spells to be able to be castable in your main phase. But once things board, you don't need to go that fast. You can pump the brakes a bit, use your counter spells. And the other important thing too is expressive iteration. Typically these Phoenix decks, and typically Delver decks in general in older formats, have the issue where they have tons of card selection, but very little card advantage. Brainstorm, Ponder, Opt. These are all cards that they just give you one card. They never give you more than one card. They help you select cards so you can kind of put your lands away and keep drawing spells. But you're never plus material. You're always just kind of finding the right things at the right time, playing a threat, protecting it, and killing your opponent. Iteration changes that. Because iteration is bulk card draw. It's just 2 mana, draw 2 cards. And in that game, we saw 3 iterations cast, which allowed the Phoenix player to keep up with our control player on cards, which is absolutely huge. So iteration's a big change for these decks as far as their ability to go longer and actually draw cards rather than just select cards.
That's a good theory behind what happened there, because we saw that iteration was cast getting a Dragon Rage Channeler and a potential Mystical Dispute. What if the Mystical Dispute actually wasn't in hand? Was able to get that threat and have the counterspell in one card, and usually the Phoenix decks can kind of go on forever, as I usually like to call it on stream, because every time they cast Expressive Iteration, they're turning that card selection into card advantage, like you were saying, and it's just so hard to keep up with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How far do you expect the Phoenix deck to go in this tournament?
I mean, one of the safest things to do in a week 1 tournament with a new set is just to play the really good established deck. Everyone's trying out the new zombie decks and the new spirit decks and stuff. And, well, your Phoenix deck is still really good. And then in this scenario, the Phoenix deck got a pretty big upgrade in Consider, which, again, looks so innocent. It's just an op with a little bit of an upside. But that's exactly the kind of card the Phoenix wants. And Consider's going to hit a Phoenix and put it in the graveyard, 10% of the time or whatever it is. That's going to change the numbers a bit. It was, aside from just being a great card, where you already would have played Opt, and now you can play Opt and Consider and decide how many cantrips you actually want to play. So this is one of the best decks in the format, getting a reasonable upgrade from the new set. It's not exciting, it's not flashy, but if you want to win, it's a great place to be.
Right. One of the things about Consider that that you already considered, you're feel free to laugh. You don't have your little laugh thing, do you? Right now, no, you don't.
I can hit it if you want.
Do it, hit it. Nope, didn't do anything.
Can you hear that? It might be noise gated out because you can only hear it through my microphone, but it was there. Yeah. It was there.
Okay, as long as it was there. One of the things to consider as well. I need to stop saying that word. Anyway, one of the things to make note of, is that
ponder.
One thing to ponder about and to brainstorm about, to iterate about. Anyways, is that you said it was a better op or upgraded opt, right? Well, they were already playing opt, so just to have an even better opt is even better for that deck also. So there's a few different feature matches that are still playing. We're gonna try to get them in a feature match right now. We are not currently available to feature. There are 2 matches still going on. We have MTG Girl still playing against SvimXN MTG. SvimXN was the winner of Stream League 5. So the winner of Stream League 5 is currently still playing as MTG Girl, and Harvey is playing against Berserksea. So we're going to go ahead and see if we can watch those. We cannot currently watch those right now. But let's go ahead and take a quick snapshot on what MTG Girl and SvimXN MTG are playing. So let's go ahead and check that really quick. MTG Girl right now is playing Mono Black. Oh my goodness, are you kidding me? MTG Girl is playing Rat Colony Tribal.
Hold on, I can't see it. I gotta find it. There it is.
Now, unfortunately, for all of you, we're not able to show this right now. But there are 25 rat colonies and 2 Lurrus of the Dream Den as the only creatures in the deck. That's funny. We have 3 Vanquishers Banner, 3 Bantu's Monument, a couple Thoughtseas, a couple Malakir Rebirths, and that's it.
See, I'm very excited to see this deck list, and Melee is refusing to show it to me. It keeps showing me the stream. I found it. All right, yes. That is a deck list, if I've ever seen one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There are 10 unique cards in this deck. 10 unique cards. 16 snow-covered swamps, 25 rat colonies, and then a smattering of other cards.
Now the smattering doesn't matter. It's just rat tribal. You know, Faceless Haven's a rat, folks.
That is true. That is very true.
Wow. You know what card's not in here though? The card Ali Eldrazi's playing, the Faceless Agent. You would think that's more copies of Rat Colony, isn't it?
Find some more rats.
Wow. Wow. Okay, well, now I'm excited, and I hope MTG wins the entire tournament. It just says mono black. It doesn't even say rats. I'm assuming like a mono black aggro deck, you know, with the Thought Seizes, with the Gutter Bones. With
for sure, yeah.
I'm expecting that, and all I see is 25 rat colonies. Well,
the important thing here is that there's also only 2 Thought Seizes because you got to make room for rats. You can't like cut into your rat count too hard. So, love it, love it.
Also, no Inquisitions. Who needs Inquisition when you have rats?
Right, just rat them up. The more rats, the better.
You know, Ratatouille, just cook a soup. We also have Sphinx and MTG, the winner of Stream League 5, playing Orzhov. Now, we see Esper Sentinel, Luminarch Aspirant, Thalia's Lieutenant, 4 copies of all of those. 3 copies of Thalia Guardian of Thraben and Elite Spellbinder. A couple Dauntless Bodyguards, a couple Thraben Inspectors. So we see this is an Orzhov Humans deck. With a Yawgmoth Thran Physician in there for some card advantage. We have a General's Enforcer to make sure that our things have Indestructible. We have General Kudro of Drannith, a little bit of a Lord there that also exiles things from the graveyard. I think is very strong in this format. If Phoenix is going to be a deck in this format, General Kudro is kind of what you want to be doing. Also, there's a lot of flashback cards that are being played. Faithless Lootings. Definitely a lot of cards to be exiled with General Kudro of Drannith. We have a Giant Killer to be searched for with the Ranger Captain of Eos. We have Abzan Battle Priest, Brutal Cathar, and Jaren Corrupted Bishop. So those are some new cards, aren't they? Brutal Cathar is a new card, isn't it?
Yeah, the Brutal Cathar, the Jaren, kind of quite the variety pack of spicy one-ups here for sure.
Intrepid Adversary, Macias, just like a lot of cool one-ups there. 21 lands, and so those decks are facing against each other. I mean, honestly, I don't think Orzhov Humans has a chance against rats.
Well, of course, the true tribal deck showing humans who's boss. Yeah, the one thing I do love about this humans deck is 1 Mana Tithe. You got to have the one in an open deckless tournament. That's the kind of card that puts the fear of God in your opponent's heart because you only have 1. You kind of like can't really play around it, but if they have it, it's really, really embarrassing. So I love the 1 Mana Tithe in the open deckless format.
Right, that's actually something that I think people don't really utilize a lot. I mean, they do also. I've seen it a lot. Is that in an open deck list to have like a 1-of in your deck, in your main deck, and maybe like a couple 1-ofs in your sideboard, like really like your opponent just has to play around them now since it's open deck list.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a good way to kind of exploit the count against open deck lists is often that it stifles innovation, right? And I'm kind of like obviously for online tournaments it makes sense, but I prefer to have closed deck lists whenever possible because I love cute sideboard jukes and having cool new tech and like I like your opponent being in the dark. Mm-hmm. So the corollary to that is if it is open deck list, how do you kind of gain that edge? And a way to do that is play a spicy 1-of or 2. Put your opponent on their toes, keep them guessing, and they have the information, but they can't use it super well because you only have 1 Mana Tithe. When's it going to be?
I mean, you got to Mana Tithe that rat on turn 2, right?
What's up?
You got to Mana Tithe that rat on turn 2, right? Have to.
I'm losing you. I'm sorry.
Oh, you can't hear me?
You're good now. I'm sorry.
Okay. You have to Mana Tithe the rat on turn 2, right? You can't just not Mana Tithe that.
Oh, well, if you're not Mana Tithing a rat, then what are you Mana Tithing in general?
Exactly. I mean, exactly. Like, you don't have a choice to do anything else. There's 25 rats in the deck.
Right. Yeah. So I think Mana Tithe is the kind of card where you take your shot when you take it. Like if you got the shot, take it, kind of thing.
Or you're holding it in your hand until they have 18 mana. They pay all the 18 mana, then you get them.
Yeah. I mean, if you do wait, it's the kind of situation where you damn well better be right. Because if you are right, you're a genius, but you better be right.
There was a spot actually where I Elite Spellbindered the Rogue Draw spell, the 4 mana, the one that becomes 4 mana. So it was 6 mana, and I also had Redain on board, so it was 8 mana. And I had Mana Tithe in my deck. They end step 8 mana, draw 3, using all of their mana, and I got Mana Tithe.
That's a good one. They should have a Mana Tithe Hall of Fame. Everyone can submit their good Mana Tithes. I've had a few good ones over my career for sure. A card I love playing, and everyone should submit their Mana Tithe Hall of Fame. And you can just walk down the hall. If you're having a bad day, if you're ever, feeling sad, you go to the Manatite Hall of Fame and just smile the whole way down the hallway at all the good Manatite dunks.
Right. All right. So it looks like these matches here are going to come to an end. We are not able to show them on stream right now, but we are going to be starting round 2 of Stream League 6, sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, hosted by myself and JimDavisMTG here in just a few minutes. We'll see you in round 2. is it going, everybody? We are starting round 2 of Stream League 6, sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. Here we have Jim Davis with us. Let's go ahead and talk about this first feature match here in round 2. We have Eric Coomber, which is Scrubbly in Mono Blue playing against, or Mono Blue Spirits, playing against Echo TV, playing Gruul. This deck also has a lot of different cards in it. And there's a few cards in it that actually make this deck playable from the new set. So let's go ahead and talk about some of those cards. What are you excited to see from the new set from this Mono Blue Spirits deck?
This is going to be a cool one because of how things are going to line up. So our Gruul player is not playing normal Gruul. No Bone Crusher Giants, no Burning Tree Emissaries. This is a werewolf deck with 4 Nightpack Ambusher, a bunch of new werewolves. And this is going to play very interestingly against the Spirits deck because the Spirits deck wants to play at instant speed, which means day and night are going to be flipping a lot. So this is going to play right into the werewolves player's plan of wanting to have the werewolves flip. So this is going to be a really cool dynamic matchup.
Now we see a few new cards here from the Spirits deck. We have 4 Patrician Geist, which is a card that just came out. It's a 2 and a blue for a 2/2 Spirit Knight. Has flying, and it's a Lord. Other spirits you control get +1/+1, and spells you cast from your graveyard cost 1 less to cast. There's not going to be any, as far as I know, spells being cast from the graveyard here with the Spirits deck, but it also just is a Spirit Lord. We already have Supreme Phantom in Historic, which is a 2-mana 1/3 flyer that have other spirits you control get +1/+1. That's 2 different Lords, which is something you really like to see from a tribal deck.
Yeah, having that 5th or 8th Lord is very, very important. And it's definitely not like it's a little bit of a hybrid of a tribal deck and like the Mono Blue kind of Curiosity Tempo deck. 4 Curious Obsessions in here. Want to get that Obsession thing going with the counter spells, but definitely makes the creatures in the deck, which are a little weak, much more impressive.
Yeah, it does have those Curious Obsessions. There's a couple of copies of, as 4 copies of Curious Obsession. We see a little bit of counter spells here with Lofty Denial. We have Archmage Charm being played in this deck. Do you think this Archmage Charm is a little bit too expensive, or is it right up our alley here for the Spirits deck?
It's pretty flexible, and the good thing about Archmage's Charm in this deck is that this deck is often weak to like 1-drop aggro decks. So having a 3-mana control magic is a pretty nice side thing to have. You can steal a Death Shadow or a big Champion of the Perished or whatever. So having that ability, or tokens too, is a nice thing to have. It's a very flexible spell.
You can also kind of ambush your opponents, especially taking a Champion of the Perished. A lot of those cards are ground creatures from your opponent's side of the board. So being able to take one, being able to take one post attack or pre-attackers, right? Just to take, and it might just not attack.
Absolutely. So this is where the interesting part of this matchup comes into play here, is that Nightpack Ambusher has Flash. So it's not often you get to see the Gruul player play at instant speed against the Mono Blue Tempo player. And again, we haven't seen a werewolf yet, but there are multiple werewolves in the deck as far as flipping back and forth goes. So this is a much more interesting matchup than your usual just Gruul smash. So this is pretty cool.
You're usually used to seeing Nightpack Ambusher in the Gruul decks, but also with blue in it. There's no blue in this deck, folks.
Right. And the thing is that the Ambusher, the blue deck doesn't really deal with things very well, of course. So we're going to see the Ambusher get phased out here, which will prevent the token from making a token. But it's still in play, and it's probably not going anywhere. There's actually no removal in the deck aside from 2 copies of Petty Theft for Brazen Borrower. So Ambusher's here to stay, and then Ambusher plays perfectly into the plan of just saying go over and over again, and a devastating smashing too. This is going to be very, very difficult for our Spirits player to get out of.
Yeah, now all Echo has to do is nothing, right?
Right. The thing is that typically these sort of Gruul aggressive decks are very good against the Mono Blue Tempo-y decks. The Mono Blue decks tend to be very good against, control decks, combo decks, things like that. But with this Gruul deck having the ability to also play things at instant speed and utilize that sort of area of the game, this seems like it's very much in Echo's favor. Oh my God.
Wow.
There's top right, fast as possible.
Get out. Probably get out.
Yeah, so this is going to be a tough one. Now we're going to see some sideboarding here, of course. Essence Capture. Selective Snare is a really cool one. That's a blue and an X. You can bounce creatures that are the same type. But again, I really think the flash elements of this Gruul deck, whether they're better than Bone Crusher and Friends, in the format as a whole remains to be seen. But in a matchup like this, they line up really, really well.
Oh yeah, I know. And also the fact that Nightpack Embusher has like synergy with the rest of the deck too, which is pretty cool. And also there's new Arlen, right, from the new set.
Yep.
I'm sure it's in this deck. And it makes wolves, and it's +1, lets you cast your cards at instant speed also.
Right. This is the most flashy Gruul deck I've ever seen. And take that from multiple angles, if you will. Definitely, this is a cool build, and it's certainly getting paid off here with this lining up really, really well. And now also the Gruul player gets to bring in a Braid, Magma Spray, Run Afoul. There's really cheap removal spells to keep the mono blue player off balance. The mono blue is a deck where, spirits or no, it needs to get on the board to kind of get ahead. So those bounce spells can be kind of tempoed. You can kind of win the game that way. That's going to be very, very difficult to do with now Magma Spray and friends coming in as well.
Yeah, if it was already a bad matchup in game 1, it's probably even worse game 2 and 3, right?
Yeah, I don't think that the mono blue player is getting enough here to really make up for it. And they're actually, if you can believe it, 0 copies of Aether Gust in this mono blue sideboard. Aether Gust being one of the best sideboard cards, printed in, I couldn't even tell you how long, so.
Yeah, since like almost ever.
Right, and that would be the spot where, okay, well, at least they have Aether Gust, they can kind of do their thing, and that gives them that removal spell they didn't really have. This is going to be very difficult. Yeah, so you see Essence Capture here. Good card, but you got to have, for these tempo sort of counter spells to work, there needs to be a clock in play too. There's your threat, but things got to get rolling and you got to get ahead.
Special coming down here. Yeah, it responds. Nightpack Embusher. No Rattle Chains. No Brazen Borrower. Trying to get in here. Get that pressure on the battlefield. Rattle Chains here as flash. Go ahead.
Pretty interesting choice though, because for a number of reasons, A, didn't capture the wolf, and then B, didn't play the 2-drop, because if the 2-drop was played, then this turn could have been 2-drop and Sailor. So gets to nab the new Werewolf Legend, but we have a 2/2 flyer against a 3/3, and then not much else going on as far as interaction. We can see double Rattle Chains here. We can see a Petty Theft. Maybe we see a Lord off the top. We can see some racing, but we're gonna see what Ekkel has. All right, there's Stormseeker, and again, no more counter spells here. It can be Petty Thefted, but it's coming back next turn, and these Rattle Chains aren't exactly the fastest threat.
One thing I do want to mention about this deck here from Ekkel's side is that Reckless Stormseeker is very, very good right after you play Werewolf Pack Leader.
Absolutely.
Because it triggers Pack Tactics as soon as on turn 3.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've played in the previous format, try to go Pack Leader on 3 and then 3/3 Haster on 4. It's like Arnie something or other. It's a Legend from Kaldheim. And the new Werewolf is just much better. Reckless Stormseeker is really, really good. All right, that was a huge draw. So now at the Obsession, now there's actually that extra push towards drawing cards, getting the ball rolling, kind of making some forward progress here before Ekkel can get off the ground. Again, only spirits in hand though, so no interaction now, no way to bounce things, no way to counter things, no way to kill things. It's going to be a race, and racing against enormous Gruul werewolves can be difficult.
Let's see what Ekkel decides to do here. Maybe it's nothing to try to get down a Nightpack Embusher.
Yeah, we'll see. Most important thing for Ekkel here is getting on the board. And I can definitely see an Ambusher here in response to this Borrower. Yep, there you go. So this is not an angle that most Gruul decks usually have. Now an Ambush is in play. It's huge, and it makes the Pack Leader huge. And we're going to see, the Geist come down. Here are the Lords. Here's the swing. It's a pretty big swing, and that is 7. So there is lethal for our Spirits player. And a counterspell or bounce player would be huge.
That's exactly what we're looking to do in game 1. Just not able to get on the board fast enough, not able to deal with opponent's creatures fast enough. That Brazen Borrower really did a lot of work here.
Yeah, the Borrower and the Curious Obsession are definitely the key cards. The remaining creatures just aren't that important, because they're sort of there. But the ability to interact with the board, draw some cards, and unless Ekkel's got something nice here,
are we gonna see like a chump block or something? Maybe Tiscrubbly plays around the out of Ekkel having 3 damage somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it is open decklist, and there is no burn in Eccles' deck.
No Evercleave either?
No Embercleave, no burn. There's the pump ability on Pack Leader, which is definitely, that would be 10 damage, but of course there's 11 points of life here. So we're going to see a block.
Yeah, I think Scrubbly just taking the easy way, like make sure you don't die to anything that's like unknown, even though their whole entire deck list is known, but crazy shenanigans can happen. We already have lethal on board with our other creatures if we block, so let's just do this.
Yeah, definitely. And then once that Rattle Chains comes down, I don't really see a way out for Ekkel. You know, one Abrade here would keep Ekkel alive, but not in the face of Rattle Chains. So there's a post-combat Stormseeker, which is a little interesting, honestly.
If they were going to, I think that was just like a little bit of either an oversight or just cast it. Nothing else really to cast that's relevant. Because like if Echo really wanted to make that full attack, they'd cast the Stormseeker pre-combat. But at this point, I just don't think it matters anymore.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly some stuff happening here as far as priority goes. There's an Abrade, but again, this isn't really enough. This is still 3, 6, 7, 8. So I think that's going to do it. Unless, I'm sorry, there's one copy of Run Afoul in Eccles' deck. It is not there.
Oh, that would be interesting.
That would have been spicy.
That might even be lethal for the Gruul player if they had it.
Oh, would have won the game on the spot. Absolutely. Yeah. So, but unfortunately, the one Run Afoul not there. So we see a little bit of a surprising win there for our Mono Blue player, being able to sort of out aggro the Gruul deck, which should, in theory, be outsizing them by a significant margin. But the one timely Petty Theft, one timely Curious Obsession, and then just enough to cross the finish line. However, now our Gruul player is back on the play, and our Gruul player also has a chance to draw Llanowar Elves. And again, if I had to put my chip somewhere, it's going in the Gruul side here, on the play, all the flash stuff. And again, if the Gruul player is able to get out ahead, it's going to be pretty difficult for Ekkel to, for the Scrubbly to kind of buy that time and get things going. But there's Selective Snare, which is a cool one, which is definitely a cool one.
Yeah, we have enough lands, we have a good curve. Like, if there's a time that Scrubbly can win this game on the draw, it's definitely this.
The Scrubbly seems to agree that Selective Snare is very exciting, letting us all know about it.
It's the content play.
Another one.
Okay, it's the content play.
The problem here is that there isn't really much of a clock. So we see a Sailor and a Borrower, no Obsession, no Lord. Change is a good draw there, because now there's a bit of a curve too, but bounce spells don't mean much if you don't win the game in the next turn or two. So we'll see how this goes.
Might see that same play as last game. Nope. I like the fact that we're seeing a lot of new cards in this matchup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Eccles' almost entire deck is new cards. It's pretty wild. So this is interesting. We're going to see a pretty aggressive Petty Theft here, with Lofty Denial available, as well as these two Selective Snares. So, and then here we go. Here's the spray. So the big thing about that second game was no real removal from Eccles' side. So the board kind of just got there. It was flying, and then it just won the game. But now we're seeing the spray, and then kind of a weird play too, because now Eccles is able to just recast the Pack Leader because I was in combat. So reset the Pack Leader for the turn, but that was really it. So we'll see. Here's Herald to tap it. Herald is a pretty good draw also. But things are coming down. Selective Snare is pretty good here. It is 3 mana, bounce 2 creatures. But again, these bounce spells aren't as exciting when there's no clock, and a 2/1 flyer isn't much of a clock. So this looks good, but it's important to recognize how bounce spells affect a game of Magic. Bounce spells are inherently card disadvantage. They are tempo advantage. But if you aren't utilizing the tempo, then it comes back to card advantage. So we'll see how this plays out. Still at 17 for Ekkel.
Double Pack Leader here. Let's see if we have that green source. No mana open for Scrubbly, which is what you want to see from the Gruul side. So see what happens here. I mean, if I'm Scrubbly, I'm ecstatic here at how this game is going on. And we do want to, the dream, I think, would be to draw like one more untapped land here.
Yeah, if untapped land allows for Chains plus Lofty Denial, that's kind of the issue too. By playing Snare there, is that now his denials are down, and now there's just 2 more creatures available. So obviously Snare lines up well against the Wolf token, but there's just not a lot of aggression coming through.
So if you're to Scrubbly here, do you just flash the Borrower or Rattle Chains? Just to, like, you tap down the pack leader, pack tactics doesn't happen here, and then just try to get in with in the air like we did the last game.
Yeah, that's probably got to be the plan, but the problem is it's somewhat of a flimsy plan because the creatures are kind of flimsy, and the power on Eccles' board is just growing and growing and growing. So now I tap pack leader, attack for 2, and now I imagine here's an ambusher. So there you go. So now we see 11 power on Eccles' board, and we can see a snare again, but this is still only an attack for 4, and then the creatures come back down, and we'll see if it's enough.
I mean, there's a world where Scrubbly gets there. I mean, 11 is not that much.
Yeah, and I mean, this Nibblegast Herald is also very, very good. This is sort of like the tempo we need to kind of tap things down, buy some time. And, right now it comes across for 7, counter the next spell, attack for 5.
Especially if we get the new Lord or something next turn.
Yeah, a Lord would be huge here, because a Lord would appreciably change the clock. All right, so we're seeing Herald taps, board growing.
Actually, a Lord is exact lethal. There's no removal spell.
It's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, that is true. Here comes Arlen.
All right, still lethal if we get a Lord here off the top.
Okay.
Land is what we want,
No,
though.
but I think the snare's got to pull it off. This is a pretty good snare here. You can bounce all of the tokens and kill them all, or bounce Ambusher, force a recast. Time is all that's needed right now.
Wow, this Selectus snare. I mean, we saw them show it to us for the content.
Yeah.
Not attacking with Nibblegast Herald here.
That's a little weird. Yeah, you just got to go face here and try to win the game. So, I mean, once again, Eccles in a spot where dead on board needs to present lethal.
Need removal.
Yeah, the lack of removal has been a pretty big issue here. We also saw the Magma Spray cast very, very early on that 1/1 flyer, and I think that's going to come back to haunt Eccles tonight if Eccles having some dreams about Magic, because if that spray had killed the Nibblegast Herald, this game would have been probably pretty easy to win.
What if we had seen a spicy Cinderclasm there?
Yeah, there it is, though. Wow, I'm very impressed. Going into this match, I mean, I would have bet everything on the Gruul deck.
Oh, same.
I wouldn't have a house anymore. So because not only I think is Gruul just naturally favored against mono blue tempo decks in general, the way this Gruul deck is constructed with all these flash threats, these werewolves, but definitely the Scrubbly drew the right amount of interaction, and those snares were super, super clutch. So pretty crazy match there. It was an exciting one.
We're going to go over to either Arne playing Blue Red Phoenix against John Likes Games playing Big Red, or Ali Eldrazi playing 5-color Niv against Harding playing Teamer Flash. Go ahead and try to see if we can find one of those here in a second. What do you think? I mean, obviously, Teamer Flash is a pretty good deck to be playing. We saw all the tools that can be played in that Gruul deck with the flash threats. We add in a couple Gear Hulks here and there. Add in a couple Magma Opus here and there. Teamer Flash looking pretty good in Historic right now. Yeah,
it's the kind of deck where when it gets ahead, it's kind of like the really big version of the mono blue deck we just saw. Where you're flashing, you're countering things. When it gets ahead, it's lights out. Once they get that ambusher and play it untapped, I mean, sorry, if you're not already at least on the board in some way, you're probably not winning. The problem, of course, is getting to that point, and there are a lot of fast decks in Historic that can get on the ground early and prevent them from doing that. So it's going to be a real question of how much can the teamer player control the first few turns of the game, and then can they get to that huge spot where they play Ambusher or they play Gear Hulk and then they untap and then go from there. Magma Opus, of course, is super cute in this deck because we, of course, have Gear Hulk plus Opus. That's great and fine. But the treasure just allowing for a turn 3 ambusher is also absolutely huge.
Yeah.
So this is a deck with one real goal in mind. Get Ambusher in play or get Gear Hulk in play and then untap. If it gets to that point, it's going to be in great shape.
All right, let's go ahead and see if we can get into Harding 33's match with Teamer. And we have this on turn 6 right now in game 3 against Ali Eldrazi. playing Niv Mizzet Reborn. Currently has a Territorial Kavu out. Let's go ahead and get that to you right now.
It's a mid-sized shark.
It's a little above average, you know. 7 mana into a shark is kind of the same power and toughness as a 2 mana Territorial Kavu. Must be nice.
Yes. All right. A lot of cards for Ollie here. Of course, Archmage's Charm is pretty good. We also see Hour of Devastation, which is a pretty sweet one. Doesn't see a lot of play.
No, it doesn't.
Pretty awesome card. Doesn't actually answer, of course, the Niv Mizzet itself being a 6/6. So kind of an interesting one to bring in, honestly. I mean, it deals with Planeswalkers a little bit, which is nice. But
maybe just like the Kavu is enough of a problem.
Yeah, perhaps, honestly. I mean, that's the thing about these teamer decks is that they don't deal with fat creatures very well. You know, the removal spells are obviously damage based, Fire Prophecy, Prismari Command, etc. So when the big ones come in, five or more toughness is pretty big.
Discarding Orcus. I love Orcus in that deck because 7 mana or 6 mana into an Orcus can bring Territorial Kavu back from the graveyard with haste.
Yeah, Orcus is a cool card. It's definitely a little clunky and expensive, but it is real good when you cast it.
Especially with, I've had a lot of success playing against all the humans decks, and even playing it for 5 mana to wipe every X1 is amazing. Also, because Elite Spellbinder has 1 toughness, even like a lot, almost, I think it's almost every creature in the human decks that are going on right now are creatures with 1 toughness at some point. Like, yes, they can grow from other +1/+1 counter cards, but a lot of them have 1 toughness.
Absolutely, yeah. And then, of course, it's also the 5/3 flying trample, which is freaking huge too. So
yeah. So it's just by far the best card to have if you don't have just a Deafening Clarion or something.
All right, so big play from Ollie here, countering the card draw spell, and now we're seeing a lack of options from Harding's side, and we're not going to see this Hour Devastation.
Yeah.
I guess there's only 1 red in play. Could have shocked him with Steam Vents and gone for the Hour.
I think that's what I would have done.
Can't ignore the Kavu for too long here. It is pretty big.
That's a clock.
The advantage you get from attacking with it is, of course, you're just having it have gas all the time. So any land in your hands now, hopefully a spell. And activating Mantras is great. But again, as I said in the intro to this deck, the teamer deck really can't fall behind. And now we're seeing a spot where the Kavu gets to attack. It's actually going to eat an Opus from the graveyard to disallow possible Gearhulk shenanigans.
Yep.
Sort of like dotting I's, crossing T's here, and putting a lot of pressure on Harding to really do something impactful next turn.
Right. The thing I love about Kavu is he just plays every role. Okay. It's a, what is it, a 4-turn clock? That's an insane clock for 1 creature. It's a 4-turn clock.
2.
It draws cards. It costs 2 mana. And specifically that deck, there's so many Triomes in it. And it exiles a graveyard. Something I mentioned in round 1 or before Stream League started today was that Territorial Kavu does an amazing job at doing all these roles, exiling creatures from the graveyard that can come back like a Gutter Bones, exiling spells that can come back from Torrential Gearhulks, like that Magma Opus that we just saw. There's a lot of amazing qualities that are good in a Magic card and a Magic deck here.
Big spot. Oh, we have a connection.
That Territorial Kavu just plays all the roles. But, Harding had the foresight to wait for the second Kavu.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, as we talked of open deck list, it's only a 1 of that 1 Hour Devastation. Kind of a somewhat odd card to bring in, and maximum paid off there. But here comes Niv Mizzet, and once again, the issue being that Niv Mizzet is very, very big. 6 toughness is a lot, and I don't know if there's a real answer to this Niv here.
Yep, no answer to this Niv Mizzet here. Torrential Gearhulk can cast a spell out of the graveyard, can cast an Archmage Charm to draw a couple cards. There is a Dovin's Veto in hand. There is a Vanishing Verse that can come down next turn to take out this Nightpack Ambusher. Game's looking pretty over here, especially if there's a Lightning Helix on the top of Ali Eldrazi's deck, or in the next 3 cards after that, due to that Expressive Iteration.
Yeah, Dovin's Veto is the major card here. The ability to counter whatever could possibly stop this. It's sort of funny. Now Ollie is the tempo deck. Ollie has the threat in play and the counter spell in hand, and that's usually all she wrote. So I would be hard pressed to see Harding out of this game. The one fear, I suppose, is like a Shark Typhoon, but Vanishing Verse covers that too. So looking pretty good for Ollie here.
Now, there could even be copies of Prismatic Command in Ollie's deck, which also does the damage here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ollie's pretty happy to just chill here. I don't think going for the win is necessary. You can just leave the instant up, and then if there is a tap out for a Gear Hulk or a tap out for anything, then you fire off the instant at that point too. And Ollie's, I think, patient enough to realize that. So you can iteration here or not, and just chill and just take the game next turn.
I think Ollie is going to chill based on playing that land there.
Yeah, or another threat.
I like having two lethal attackers as well.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty heads up play, and then not being greedy at all. Just casting it for 3, just making sure it's lethal, making sure it lives through any sort of 2 damage effect, which there aren't many of, I guess.
Making sure to hold up the Vanishing Verse and the Dovin's Veto.
Exactly. So covering bases, putting 2 threats in play. And we got a Hail Mary here from Harding. To be fair to Harding, there is a lot of power on the battlefield. There's 11 power. So, there is perhaps maybe some sort of path here. But here's Archmage's Charm to counter the Crokeyz.
I don't even know if you worry about this, right? Because we have Ollie has lethal now. If it counters the Crokeyz, that's fine. Then you just Dovin's Veto or Vanishing Verse a blocker for Niv.
Yeah, the problem is that there isn't really an answer to this Niv Mizzet. Especially with Veto and Verse covering basically everything.
I think the only thing you need to worry about is Magma Opus, right? Like if you Dovin's Veto that right there, and to make the Crokeyz resolve, a top deck Magma Opus could actually be a problem with tapping the Niv Mizzet.
Yes, that would buy the time I think necessary to win. And same idea like what I was saying before, where like there's a lot of power in play. So what can they do with that power to kill me? And you're absolutely correct. Opus here, just tap the blocker for 1 turn, buy a little time, get it, and sneak that win in. So you got the desperation cycle here, but what do you get? It could be anything. It could be a Triome.
Could be a counterspell.
Yeah. All right. So there's your memory lapse, and that'll do it. Ollie takes it down. In what, in theory, should be a pretty good matchup for the Flash player because Ollie's deck doesn't really get going super fast. But the problem is, if Ollie resolves literally anything, it feels like game over. And the Kavu's just so cheap. Territorial Kavu is just so inexpensive that it can come in under counter spells. It's huge. It's hard to kill. So Kavu felt like the card of that match, even though we didn't see all of it. Felt like the most important card by a lot.
Right. Now, unfortunately, we're not able to show you that Flash matchup for too long since we entered that in Game 3. We have a match in Game 2 right now. It's going to be Arne Huschenbeth against John Likes Games. Arne Huschenbeth is playing, looks like, is it Dragon Rage Channeler? We have Seasoned Pyromancer here. We have Brazen Borrower. We see an Ox of Agonis against John Likes Games' big red deck featuring Brash Taunter. So let's go ahead and look at that really fast and watch the end of this game. We are currently in Game 1 as well, so let's go ahead and go look at that for John Likes Games.
Ooh, boy. Brash Taunton. This is quite the brew here. Also, Fiery Emancipation. Trips Brash Taunter in hand. Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty wild game state to walk into. It looks like things might be over here for our mono red player, though, with Chandra already on 7. Yeah, Arclight Phoenix, Den of the Bugbear, Channeler. The Relic can exile the graveyard for Channeler, but 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's exactly lethal. Burn spell or bust here. That's not quite gonna do it.
How about a 2-mana burn spell?
Yeah, that didn't specify. Didn't specify.
Oh no. All right, well, that spells defeat. Okay, is there some kind of weird omen on us where right when we enter something, someone dies?
We are the harbingers of doom.
Yes, we are the defeat reaper. We can go ahead and see if we can find another match here afterwards, so that we don't see someone just lose right as we enter their battlefield.
It's kind of fun though. I mean, being the harbinger of doom is like a pretty cool title.
That's a good.
Come to your game, and one of you will lose.
All right. Well, do you want another chance at this? Do you want another chance to be the harbinger of doom?
Let's
go. Let's go. We see Veggie Wagon playing against the real Killadub here. and it's about that time. Are you ready, Jim?
Gong, gong.
It's about that time.
All right, so we got Borrower Herald. Yeah, quite the Delver Secrets has flipped.
Wait,
I
what?
call the
Hello?
presses. Somebody call the news. But yeah, looks like I mean we got a dispute here. A Hermit that wasn't flashed back because there's a Grafdigger's Cage in play. The old self-own. Love those are rare. Those are rare. And with a lot of cards to play for Kilodub here, I mean this looks pretty good.
This is the second Spirits deck in this tournament. I didn't know there was 2 of them, but I'm happy to see it. I'm here for it.
Yeah, there's some cool new cards for it for sure, absolutely. And then cards like Nibblegast Herald are sort of like there's that jumpstart effect of like, wait, what? That card's legal? It's a cool card. Saw I'll play it standard. It's just a pretty fun card as far as like tempo flashy stuff. Not overtly powerful, but very cool synergy card.
Do you what would you choose between Spirits and Merfolk right now if you were to play either one of those decks in Historic?
Probably Merfolk. I think the new Merfolk God is just like unbelievably good. I don't love Merfolk as a deck in general, but I think the Merfolk God and then playing for company is quite good.
I did catch the Merfolk. That's going to be a part of the content.
Merfolk?
Yes, you said that. I know you did. if we can, yeah, you said Merfolk. I can just see all the Merfolk just buffing up and just holding a bunch of forks in their hands.
I want to watch this. That sounds great.
It does. It does. We see a Brazen Borrower here. I mean, it's probably over. Malevolent Hermit here, trapping the cage a little bit. We see Kilodub is at 3, but we have more than 3 on the back end, backswing here.
Yeah, we're looking for a misclick here.
No misclick.
Didn't happen.
No misclick.
And Doom is served once again.
Look at that. You got a chance to be your Harbinger of Doom again.
This is great.
It's fun, right?
Are there any matches left we can visit and watch?
Let us try. Let's see if we got going on here. Wait, we have a match in game 1.
Game 1?
Yes. All right, so no Doom Harbinging here. But we have a match in game 1. So let's go ahead and go over to Chris Kavartek.
All right. False alarm.
They are playing.
I think it's a false alarm. Maybe we have a draft match here.
That is not it. I promise you, it's not it. We're going back for ourselves. Okay, that is not what we're going for. That is a draft match. We are. What if we
transcend and we can take our Doom saying beyond this tournament and out into the real world? Just ruin games of Magic as much as we can.
Just tell Chris Kavartek to scoop.
Yeah, like sorry. Doom has arrived. The game is over.
Yeah, your game's over. We're gonna go ahead and see if we have any more matches left here. It looks like Berserksy and Caleb Durward are still playing. Let's go ahead and see if we can go over to one of them. One Memento.
I don't see them.
All right, looks like they are not available to be seen right now. Let's see if Rent and Upumpa are still playing. Don't you worry. We're getting as many matches as possible to you. Does not look like Brent is still playing.
Christmas.
What out of the decks that we have not seen yet? I know there's a lot of decks in Historic, but out of the decks we have not seen yet, what are you excited to see?
I saw a zombie deck in the deck list. I didn't see who it was, but Champion of the Perished is there's some new zombies were added from Historic Horizons. Digraph Colossus, a couple cool ones, but Champion of the Perished is the really exciting one. Really is. It's probably one of the best, if not the best, zombie one-drop available. I mean, Crypt Breaker is also great, but as we see from humans, Champion of the Parish, just giving the deck an ability to get big fast is a really, really important thing. And Champion of the Parish is just great. So Would love to see some zombies. Probably green for company as well, I think. I mean, see if I can find the deck list. But zombies is pretty cool. Excited for that. And again, also excited because I wanted to see the Historic Horizon zombies, but haven't really seen those yet. So Champion of the Parish feels like the final piece.
Oh yeah, I played against zombies. The other day on stream, and I got destroyed by Champion of the Parish. It was like a 16-16. They just played so many zombies.
Right, and zombies is also a deck that's very, very good at just like putting a lot of stuff in play. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the cards are legal, honestly. I'm looking at the deck list now. Crypt Breaker, Digraph Colossus, Undead Augur is a new one from Historic Horizons. Also, it's very good. And then Liliana's Mastery, Dark Salvation. A lot of the pieces from the old standard deck are here, and then augmented by Champion of the Parish, and then Undead Augur. And Undead Augur is a really good card. It's a black 2/2 zombie wizard. Whenever it or another zombie you control dies, you draw a card and lose a life. So it's effectively just a 2-mana Midnight Reaper. And that's a huge upgrade over a 3-mana one because it allows the deck to kind of grind, keep drawing cards. Between that and Crypt Breaker, tons of ways to draw cards here. And that's why I like playing I played a lot of a zombie deck in Standard when it was legal. And with Crypt Breaker and Digraph Colossus, it felt a lot like Goblins does in older formats, which of course I love, where it's sort of like this creaturey board control deck that can go fast, but also grinds really well and kills creatures really well. So between Dark Salvation killing creatures, Crypt Breaker drawing cards, Digraph Colossus going wide, a lot of play to it in that respect. And I'm stoked to see it. This version is mono black, but I think splashing for company is also a very good thing to do as well.
Right. We have currently Christmas here playing against someone that we've already seen in Meta Custoda. Playing the Phoenix deck that we already saw Meta Custoda win with against the Ninja last round. We see the Collected Company Gruul here going for a Cindervines play. Already has Voltaic Brawler, Gruul Spellbreaker, and something that you don't usually see in Gruul is Paradise Druid.
Yeah, definitely getting a little more aggressive here. And then Cindervines, of course, usually used as a disenchant here, but here playing the role of sort of Eidolon of the Great Rebel. Just going to ping it for every iteration, for every opt. Sort of like a much more aggressive and gruely Narset, where it just punishes the Phoenix player for playing all of their cheap cantrips.
Just say grueling?
Grueling. I just made grr sounds and then just drooled out of my mouth, and it kind of came out the way it did. So
that's what I saw. I saw that.
Yeah,
Collected Company here, waiting in the wings here. We know that Meta Custoda from the previous round plays Negate, so let's see if they brought a Negate in. Probably not, though, since it's a creature deck.
Yeah, I would assume not. I mean, a couple Amber Cleaves, a couple companies. I could see maybe like Spell Pierce if you're feeling like you really need to like get some sort of tempo advantage against the cards like Company and Embercleave, but Negate feels a little hard to leave up. We'll find out. It does resolve, and it's a pretty good one.
That's a very good one.
And we're looking at life totals being 20 to 10 here. Everything's coming up red and green here for Christmas.
What are we looking at as far as outs for Dota?
I don't think there are any. I'll be totally honest. I mean, like with Cloythus now too, indestructible, and the problem is that there's just such a wide array of sticky threats here. Cloythus is hard to remove. Cindervines is hard to remove. Even this attack alone is coming in for a large amount. It's hard to envision like a single card that could deal with everything here. And with 20 life on Christmas's side, there is no way like a win get cheesed out here. You know, like looting, double Phoenix, bolt, whatever. This is a lot. This is a lot.
Looting, double Phoenix, bolt. We're in modern, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I maybe some Fire Blasts. I don't even know. I'm just trying to find options that may not be there.
Fire Blast, some embers, some flamethrowers.
Yeah. Something. So now at 7 life again, and Cindervines and Cloythus, even if like Dota were to play a card that just said kill all your creatures, you can never play a creature ever again. There's still 2 damage coming across every turn from Cloythus. And then for Dota to do anything, they got to cast spells, and Cindervine says no to that too. So real tough spot to be in, and very good diversification of threats by Christmas. Creatures, Cindervines, Cloythus, other company. The world is Christmas's oyster right now.
Now, pointing to something that's usually not seen in Gruul, what do you think about Gruul playing Paradise Druid?
It's interesting. Definitely plays well with company, of course. Get the deck list up here and take a little bit of a peek at it. Come on, Melee, you
I
can
think
do
it would
it.
make a little bit more sense, a lot of sense if there was actually a 5-drop.
Yeah, it's a little interesting because there really aren't a ton of things to ramp into. However, just like playing your spells quickly is reasonable. Much lighter on lands than most usual company decks here. Only 21 lands. So it is more company hits. It is more things to play off Burning Tree Emissary. So it makes sense in that sort of like abstract sense of just like cast company on turn 3 and then just a creature that's also a land, that's also a company hit, that's also a emissary play. So it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. I would love to hear the thought process behind it. But it seems to make sense.
Right. I also like casting Collected Company on turn 3 is very appealing.
For sure.
So maybe that's I mean, yeah, like you said, even if you go Burning Tree Emissary into Paradise Druid, all of a sudden next turn you can just play Collected Company. Like
Absolutely.
that's also a thing as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So and it feels like they're almost there in lieu of lands because 21 lands is pretty light for a deck trying to cast the 4-mana instant and curve out. So seems like that's the kind of the idea here is that go down on lands a bit, go up mana creatures a little bit, and just have more threats and more hits. And I mean, this game is just, it's Christmas in October here. Somebody called it was Jack the Pumpkin King from Night Before Christmas, right?
Oh,
Christmas on Halloween. I don't know. I only saw it once, but we're in the stage of the game where I'm referencing old movies because there's nothing else to analyze. The game is unbelievably over, and good on Dota here for trying to tough it out.
Listen, Dota has experience toughing it out. Okay, that game 1 against the Ninja earlier in round 1, that's toughing it out as well. And being able to get the Phoenixes across the finish line in game 1 of that first round was definitely a good indication of how far Metacustodian was able to take it in this game.
For sure, yeah. I mean, definitely, you stay in the game or in a tournament, you keep playing for sure. But that was a shellacking.
It wasn't game 3, so we didn't get to see the game that Metacustodian actually won. But that game 3 was yes, definitely a shellacking.
Yeah, it feels like the Gruul deck's pretty favored too. I mean, the clock is very fast. And then, of course, main deck Calythis, main deck Scavenging Ooze, 5 total main deck graveyard hate cards that are already just like good cards in general.
Right.
If the Phoenix player can get down a fast, Crackling Drake or some sort of like, fast draw with Sprite Dragon, sure. But it's pretty hard to get ahead on board of the Gruul deck playing Llanowar Elves, Burning Tree Emissary, and so on and so forth. So.
Right. So I believe that was the last match in round 2. We were going to meet you on the other side in a few minutes with round 3 coming soon. I'll see you soon. All right, everybody, welcome to round 3 of Stream League 6, sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. We are going to be featuring Chris Patello here, playing Teamer. It's going to be a Teamer Gear Hulk deck, one of the deck lists that we've seen a little bit of before. This one's featuring a couple cards that we have not currently seen in the other Teamer deck that we saw. We have a couple copies of main deck Shifting Ceratops.
It was interesting because there's only 2 main deck Nightpack Ambusher and 2 main deck Ceratops, with the other 2 of each in the board. So it feels like a scenario where we're seeing a sort of like a pre-sideboarding, where clearly the ambushers are still wanted for other matchups, but Chris feels like there's going to be enough matchups against whatever deck Ceratops is good against to want it in the main deck.
Right, are we seeing just the nod against wanting to be favored against Jeskai, since Lightning Helix and Prismara Command can't deal with the Ceratops without having 2 copies of them?
I suppose, yeah. I mean, it feels like a bit of a risky choice, honestly, for a tournament like this, where it is a Stream League tournament, so it's a little more open than your high level ladder. It's gonna be kind of fun decks like zombies and 25 rats. So metagaming like this is usually more utilized for like high ladder play or small field, like very very serious tournaments. Mm-hmm. So I'm a little surprised to see the main deck Ceratops, not just bringing the best main deck to the table, but got a target and wants to hit it. We'll see how it goes. Unfortunately, that target is not going to be hit this time because the opponent is mono red Brash Taunter. So Shifting Ceratops is a 5/4 for 4 that may occasionally gain haste or trample. Basically a draft common. A good one at that, but
yeah, Shifting Ceratops is good draft common against the Brash Taunter. Well, maybe the trample comes into play against Brash Taunter in a couple of these games, because Brash Taunter is a 1/1.
Yeah, very true, actually. Yeah, the fact that the trampling over for 4 and only dealing 1 damage to yourself is pretty reasonable. There's no doubt that Ceratops is still a magic card. It is a large creature with some abilities. So, when in doubt, throw a big creature at him. So we'll see how it lines up, though.
I mean, you are not wrong. It is a large creature with some abilities on it.
Yes.
All right, so right now we see a pretty amazing hand, actually, if you ask me.
Yeah, this is super solid. I mean, Growth Spiral is obviously one of the best cards in the deck as far as getting you to your bigger spells quickly. You got a removal spell, a card draw spell, perfect mana. Couldn't really ask for more.
Yeah, this is a hand that I don't even think about. Like when I'm playing on ladder, I just snap keep.
And Search for Escanta is a great draw also, honestly. Now there's something to do with all this stuff. Ooh, Lapse. Memory Lapse in particular is going to be exceedingly good against this mono red deck. Has some big plays in it. Fiery Emancipation, Brash Taunter. These are cards that get wrecked by Memory Lapse. Now it's important to note, 3 copies of Chandra Awakened Inferno in this mono red deck, which cannot be countered, and it's going to be the kind of an ace in the hole here. But the question is, will that be enough?
Seeing like mono red lands on the other side with a Mind Stone just gives me flashbacks to that mono red Ugin deck that was going around in like Standard a while back.
Mm-hmm.
We see a Search for Escanta come down. Expressive Iteration not played this turn. Holding up that Memory Lapse for a potential, Brash Taunter. Maybe even a Chandra Torch of Defiance also.
Yeah, I love this play here. Get Search online as fast as possible. Start filling the graveyard. Might get lucky and spike a card for Gear Hulk, and now Iteration can be cast. Make some land drops. Get Archmage's Charm going. Get Memory Lapse going. Chris is in the driver's seat for sure here.
This iteration gets like maybe a second iteration, or Prismara Command actually looks pretty spicy, like dealing with this Mind Stone. There's already 4 lands in place, so like Tumbler, like John Lance Games is probably gonna get to 6 mana at some point. I don't know what getting rid of that Mind Stone would do. They can also draw a card from it, so it doesn't feel kind of good. I mean, I guess if what are you taking right now if you're Chris Patello? Well,
the command makes sense. I mean, as far as card advantage goes, you don't need much more card advantage. 6 cards in hand, Search ready to go off. Make the land drop, take the spell, and keep rolling here. There's also Golden Guardian as a 4/of in this mono red deck, which is a 4-mana artifact creature to get shattered as well. So, but there it is. There's Chandra on turn 5, and Chandra's the ace in the hole. uncounterable, pretty hard to kill, gets pretty big. Of course, Girl can attack it, Unholy he can target it, but those emblems really do stack up.
Like, I think if you're Chris, like, you're pretty darn scared against this Chandra, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Gearhulk this turn. And the reality is that Pummeler's got 4 Abrades in the main deck here. And if his Gearhulk comes down in desperation to try and kill the Chandra, Abrade takes care of it. These emblems might just go all the way. You know, once that 3rd emblem comes down, that's an unbelievably fast clock.
You know, you're pretty good for Chris Patello right now?
What?
Shifting Ceratops.
That is true. That is true. Just give me the 5-mana haster. Let's go. All right, so casting Growth Spiral. And it looks like the Abrade's locked and loaded here, ready to fire. Unless Pummeler is considering Scavenger Grounds. Nope, there's your Abrade.
All right.
And Growth Spiral gets cast. Support to note that removes a card for Search for Escanta. So Search is a little slower now. And now it just comes down to the fact that, like, there just isn't really an answer to this shot. I guess I'm sorry. Now the 4th card type is in the graveyard for Unholy Heat.
Artifact,
so now
right?
We could see Heat plus Prismari Command. But even then, the emblems are already there. And there's now an 8-turn clock waiting for Chris, absent of everything else. And however,
oh my
this is pretty
goodness.
interesting. So a lot of things happening here. We see Scavenger Ground removing Delirium. We also see not enough red to cast Prismari Command. Could he use Command to make a treasure and then cast the other red spell too? But Chandra's still there.
Oh, what?
Yeah. Not sure if that was a misstep on Chris' side as far as like sequencing, as far as playing the command first to get the extra red.
Yeah.
But now Chandra's back to 4. The Ambusher can't hit it, but again, those three emblems are a lot.
Wow. That Scavenger Grounds that's probably the best Scavenger Grounds I've ever seen outside of being in Commander.
Yeah, that was pretty. And it's funny because it wasn't a ton, but it was exactly what was needed at the time. It's just 2 extra loyalty on Chandra to keep that ball rolling.
Oh, and then now we have to flash in this Nightpack Ambusher to try to deal with the Chandra this way.
I would love to see a kicked Shivan Fire here. There are 3 copies of Shivan Fire in Pummeler's deck.
Kick it.
5 mana. Oh, there we go.
Oh, wow.
This is a pummeling on all fronts.
That is his name. I mean, Chris Patello in shambles right now.
Yeah. And the reality is that I don't think this game is winnable for Chris, even if Chandra is removed from the battlefield at this point. And then if Chandra lives for another turn, the 4th emblem is just like overkill. You know, right now Chris is on a 4-turn clock. Chris needs to end the game in 4 turns. There is no way to stop these emblems, and no life gain in Chris's deck either. And does not currently have the tools to do this. So
what about the land attacking like them?
Oh, the Hall of the Storm Giant? Still a 3-turn clock, you know. That could be a path, you know, as far as, you know, winning the game quickly. It is very, very large. For future turns, you know, the Bugbear can block. Obviously, any blocker makes that not very good either. And it also just, like, taps Chris out. So now, if a Brash Taunter or any creature is played, that's an issue.
Is this, like, it for, like, Chris this turn? Potentially?
I mean, it's getting there.
Like, Prismari Command plus Unholy Heat gets rid of the Chandra, but, like, getting rid of the Chandra doesn't really do anything anymore.
Right. The emblems are there. Also, Bugbear's there, too, for more damage. Yeah, this game is pretty over.
So, definitely something I didn't expect. Chandra coming down on turn 4 or 5 here. Turn 5, right?
Turn 5, yeah.
Chandra coming down on turn 5, unable to be countered. His Memory Lapse still chilling in hand. That's just not what you want to see when you're Chris Patello.
There's also Fiery Emancipation. 3 copies.
What?
Here in Pummeler's deck. And Fires will, if a source will deal damage, it deals triple. Each emblem is its own source. So it turns each emblem into a bolt. So the problem is if Chris taps out to go for this big, you know, giant attack or whatever, and a Fire Emancipation resolves, the game also ends. So Chris has quite the task ahead of him here. I personally do love Chandra Awakened Inferno. I think it's an awesome card.
Yeah, say I do too. Yeah.
I think it is relatively underplayed in formats where it is legal, because it just does this. It's literally soloing Chris. Chris has an unbelievable amount of cards available. Flip Des Canta has almost everything he could want, and it just can't beat this single card.
Right, right. I actually played as a top end in the sideboard in my Boros midrange deck for playing against counterspell decks.
Yeah, just like the perfect card.
Mm-hmm. The thing that happens sometimes, though, what you have to be aware of when you play Chandra is that in these decks that play Memory Lapse and counterspell decks, they also play Aether Gust, and they also play Commit Memory.
Oh, that's very fair, yeah. And Gust being a big one for sure. And we're going to see there's actually no Aether Gusts in the Teamer sideboard either. Did everyone did they ban Aether Gust? Did I miss the memo? What is going on? I think you missed it.
I think Aether Gust is actually banned.
Aether Gust is one of the best sideboard cards in the format. I don't get it. There's no Gust anywhere.
Is there Commit?
You know what happened? Everyone got to the tournament site and the dealer was sold out. All the dealers were sold out.
Oh, or people bought them out at the beginning of it, and
sure,
it hiked up the price to $300 per copy, and they're like, nah, I'm not paying $300 a copy of Aether Gust. So,
because that's the card. I mean, I haven't been to a paper Magic tournament in 2 years, but the card everyone wants is the Dispel, the Aether Gust. You know, this whatever that niche sideboard card is that dealers brought 10 copies of, they sold out immediately, and everyone needs that one sideboard card. That's always the cards needed. It's never Steam Vents. It's never Scalding Tarn. It's never Tarmogoyf. It's always the weird common sideboard card.
Yep.
So that must have been it, because I can't really figure it out otherwise.
What are we playing in sideboards right now that's not Aether Gust then, if we're not playing Aether Gust? Is it just like Unholy Heat doing the deal here?
I guess. I mean, we're going to see a Braid, Anger, Unholy Heat, but no way to deal with Chandra here. No Commit Memories, no Aether Gusts. Obviously, you can Unholy Heat it, as we saw in that game. But that was an impressive showing for Chandra there. Just the solo.
Sneaky impressive showing for Scavenging Grounds.
Yeah, very true. Very true. It would have been interesting if the grounds didn't work that turn and Chandra was killed. There were 2 emblems, right? It would have been cool to see if Chris could have gotten ahead of those two emblems. But of course, with it, not working,
4 emblems.
That's not close anymore. But all right, so Chris putting the ambushers back in. Now, ambusher is going to be very good. Of course, at 4th toughness is very important. We see 4 Braids. We see Spikefield Hazard, Anger of the Gods, Sweltering Suns, all in this mono red deck that all can't kill a Nightpack Ambusher. And also the red deck's playing mostly at sorcery speed. So it's not going to be easy to deal with this Ambusher or the counterspells. Chandra can kill it, but it can be hard to resolve. That's really it. There's no real way to kill Ambusher effectively with the sideboard. 1 Storm's Wrath. That's really it.
Now, one card we did want to see in that game to kill the Chandra was Shifting Ceratops. And you see what card that Chris is not siding out.
Yeah, they're coming in, actually.
Yeah.
And it makes a lot of sense, honestly. Reality is that Chris has got to win the game. If Chandra comes down, it's got to be killed, or Pummeler needs to be killed. So
we were going to turn into this rampy mid-range deck right now for Chris Patello. And honestly, that's not a bad idea. Especially since we know that there's a lot of Abrades in John Light's Games' deck. Abrade does not kill the Nightpack Amateur, also does not kill a Shifting Ceratops.
Absolutely. So good, definitely a good choice here, focusing on those. And then this hand looks a little light. I think it's actually perfect, because with 8, there you go. With 8 4-drops in the deck, you already have the Spiral. Just draw one of them. So
here we go. We'll see Nightpack Ambusher turn 3 happen here, and then try to run away with this game. Hopefully the John Light's Games doesn't have interaction for it. Then we can also go like a Growth Spiral or Magma Opus into Torrential Gear Hulk, which we're probably going to see Magma Opus after this Nightpack Ambusher comes down. And this is like the exact curve that you want if you're Chris.
Yeah, this hand seems basically perfect. Not really messing around here, because you can't counter Chandra, and this deck this hand isn't trying to do any of that. It's actually just playing a bunch of threats that line up really well against the red deck, and then gotta skip Ambusher entirely and just go for the Opus, probably on the upkeep from Gear Hulk here, which is just devastating.
Unless there's an Abrade here on end step.
Be a pretty heads up play. Drew the land anyway.
Well, it would be heads up play to use the Abrade there. Drawing the land anyway would just I would just scoop at that point if I'm Trollex Games. Like, yeah, they had the land, so.
Yeah, I mean the problem is like, are you beating the Gear Hulk the next turn kind of thing, you know? So
Probably
this
not.
is just this is a shellacking. This is just already over. What are your thoughts on Magma Opus as a card in Historic?
That's satire. You're baiting me. No. No, Magma Opus is insane. Especially since there's a couple different cards that can cast it out of the graveyard. There's Mizzix Mastery. Also, that I think I've seen a couple copies of Mizzix Mastery in some a historic deck list, like 2 copies in the Jeskai control decks if they're playing the Gear Hulk version. In this Teamer deck, I don't think Chris is playing Mizzix Mastery, but being able to just ramp very efficiently into Torrential Gear Hulk, especially if you have that Magma Opus in the graveyard, it puts itself in the graveyard. I mean, you're rarely ever casting it for 8 mana. So with that being said, it's even better.
Yeah, my question was less, is it good, and more, do you feel like it's a fun or healthy thing to have in the format? Like,
oh yeah,
it's not the kind of thing that I think should be banned in any way, but it feels like, given that it was literally in the same set as Mizzix Mastery, and it's just such an obvious curve, like, all right, I just play this on turn 3, on turn 2, and mastery it on turn 3, or I Gear Hulk it. It just feels like kind of like a lazy, kind of like design.
It feels like deck building hand holding in a way.
Right. It's just very, very like, this is a clearly extremely obvious thing to do. Here it is. Have fun with it, I guess. It doesn't feel it feels very, very easy to pull off, and the effect it has in the game is just monstrous. We saw in that game, wasn't even close.
Yeah, it wasn't even close, that game. Like, there's going to be a lot of games like that where you just win because you have the curve and your cards are just way better than your opponents, especially because you're also playing them ahead of curve. We saw the growth spiral there, and you can also do the same thing with just discarding Magma Opus and making a treasure and doing it that way.
Right.
Now, it's going to be the games where you don't have that, where you don't have like that kind of hand-holding curve there, are going to probably be the make it or break it for you in the Teamer deck. Like, if you chose to play the Teamer deck, you're going to really remember those hands where you just don't have it, right? And in the hands that you do have it, you're going to probably win. But can your deck do very well when you don't have it is also a question I think that needs to be asked.
For sure. I think it's why we see only 2 copies of Mastery in the Jeskai decks often, because you don't want to draw Mastery without drawing an Opus for sure. But it's just so powerful to have access to. It just feels so easy to me. It feels cheap. That's my
Yeah.
it's just so easy to do, and it curves so easily. And it really is lights out against creature decks too. And even in that case, that was a turn 4 upkeep Gear Hulk, tap your lands on Pummeler's 4th turn, So
Yeah.
wow.
That
Speaking of
yeah.
ahead of curve.
It kind of reminds me of a really card that I like in Pioneer. The Emerge Squid. I can do something similar to that.
Oh, Elder Deep Fiend?
Yes.
Yeah, that card's pretty good. This game is also just a total runaway here with a turn 3 Chandra on the play. We're talking about cards ahead of schedule. And
Wow. Yep. Wow. I mean, Chandra is this turn going to go to 6 loyalty. We might have to ping it with a Prismari command, like, to just make it not ultimate.
yeah, I mean the Ceratops here having haste, if a land is drawn, would have been huge if we had the other Chandra here as well. But Bone Crusher, ready to play some defense for Ceratops.
Wow. I mean, this game's like, is this game over? Like, is wow. I mean, it kind of feels like wow.
I think a land being drawn for Chris this turn would have made this a game, but now that has not happened, I think things are looking pretty good Pummeler here. Chandra's defended, Bonecrusher blocks both Ambusher and Ceratops pretty well. There is Opus Gear Hulk, so there is a possibility to just like Prismari command, loot some cards, make a treasure, Opus, sacrifice it, make a treasure, untap Gear Hulk. So we're not going to see that though. So we're not going to see the main phase Prismari command here try and dig for lands. We're going to see a discard and a passive a turn.
You know what? I think we're going for double Opus to guarantee the Gear Hulk without drawing a land.
That's reasonable. But now I see a Rolling Vortex.
Oh my gosh. Oh no. The
also
flavor
a Scavenger
text,
Grounds.
The flavor text of Rolling Vortex is going to come into play. Everyone read that card, chat. Everyone read this card. If a card is cast for 0 mana, they domes them for 6, doesn't it? Or 4?
That's 5.
It's 5? Somewhere in the middle?
Oh, look.
Hey, look,
You
another
know what makes
shifting
this hand
Ceratops.
great? A 4 shifted Ceratops, yeah. Yeah, the thing is also Scavenger Grounds is up too. So,
Wow. I mean, the card of the day, Scavenger Grounds.
yeah, I don't know. I think from Chris's turn, I really like the main phase Prismari command. Draw 2, discard 2, shock Chandra, and then try and draw a land. So you can play a land, cycle Opus, and then hopefully draw another land. And just like right now the hand is so bad that there just isn't really a way out. And now we're at a spot where we're just trading off our Ambusher. Now we have to Prismari command the Chandra anyway. No. Gonna go for Ceratops here. So this is the please God don't have any spells in your hand play.
How's that gonna work out, Jim?
Probably not well. Oh, that's a spell. That is definitely a spell.
Storm's Wrath in the Planeswalker deck. Well, chose the good time to use it.
Yeah, that is a cantrip, which is gonna be very good for finding spell number 3 here for Chandra. So
oh man, it's just you love to see it though. You love to see it.
look at this hand.
This is just comical at this point, right?
Yeah, I mean that is a lot of 4, 6, and 8 drops. That's for sure. So yeah, I think the turn that the Ambusher was cast, that felt like a turn where you can play Ambusher here. It is certainly okay, but that's not a winning path, Whereas Prismari command, let's just muck this hand up a bit, draw some lands, and make some sort of forward progress. Yeah, we could miss, and it looks pretty bad for us. But overall, the best chance to actually win the game, it felt like trying to improve the hand here.
Like I feel like you just like had to take the risk in doing that. It was like the main phase for Smart Command. Like at that point, like my theory is if you're so far behind, like you just need to do the most risky, greedy plays possible and like hope your opponent doesn't have it.
Absolutely. And it shocked the Chandra for 2. So it took 2 turns off the Chandra ultimate clock. And it's not like there isn't plenty of gas in Chris's hand. If the game goes on and Chandra doesn't ultimate, there's plenty of things to do here to get things going. So even with the Vortex, stopping the Gearhulk, Ceratopses, they have text and they are pretty big. So I don't know, tough spot there for sure. Obviously, turn 3 Chandra on the play that resolves the nightmare of any counterspell kind of flashy deck. So
right.
Chandra did a job on both sides of the ball there, both Chandra 4 and Chandra 6.
Do you want to be a Death Baron right now?
Let's do it.
We're going to go over to Caleb Durward playing against Rint. Rint has already won game 1. Let's go ahead and get here before, so that we can actually be the Reaper of Death here.
Let's load it up.
We're going to, Caleb Durward here is playing against the new card, Rune of Silence.
Ooh.
Is it called Rune of Silence? No, it's called,
Curse of Silence?
Curse of Silence, there we go. It makes a card that you name cost the opponent 2 more to cast. And you can, when they cast that card for 2 more to cast, you can choose to sacrifice the card to draw a card.
Okay. A Portable Hole does seem very good against this board. And we see the Vesper Lark Withering combo with a Meathook Massacre in play. That's the full combo. So of course it looks like the curse is naming Vesper Lark, but a mana off the top will allow. I'm sorry, the Vesper Lark can be evoked too, right? Just evoke it and then Withering it. So it looks like we're lined up for the combo next turn.
This is the first time we're seeing Vesper Lark combo. It's not a very popular deck on ladder, but when it goes off, it really does just win the game. Does lose to certain graveyard hate cards, and graveyard hates everywhere. But there's certain situations like this where you can just do it all in the same turn, which is really nice. Especially if your opponent doesn't have something like Rest in Peace or something like that to turn off the combo. I mean, as soon as I say Rest in Peace, I mean, hello, how are you, Rest in Peace?
Wishclaw Talisman is a risky card. Is a risky card indeed. So Caleb had to use Talisman on his own turn, and then of course gave it to his opponent, allowed Rest in Peace to come in, and this is looking tough here.
Is the game plan for Caleb right now just like Vesper Lark attack with flying?
It's probably find more Portable Holes to kill the Rest in Peace. I mean, there's only one counterblast on Talisman. So we could see a Portable Hole here. Meathook Massacre X is 2, also just kills the Wolf and the Weaver, which is pretty nice as well. And now the problem is that Rint has the presence in play too now. So now the ball could start rolling on this Enchantress Engine. So interesting spot here. Options for Caleb are to Wrath, are to fire up the talisman and get a portable hole.
Vanishing Verse, that still works.
Same idea.
Gonna wait till Rint's turn here. Rint draws a card. See what they have cooking in hand here. Got a Sterling Grove that gives everything the threat shroud. Perfect time for Vanishing Verse.
Yes. Of course, the Grove can search for an enchantment, but it goes to the top of the library. So unless there's a 1-mana enchantment here to draw a card, or sorry, it can be more than that with the Weaver in play. Whatever card Grove can get cannot affect the game yet. So big spot here. Is there a enchantment in Rint's hand or not to find another copy of Rest in Peace?
We see a new card here from Caleb, the Meat Hook Massacre. What are your first impressions of this card?
It seems pretty good. It's obviously a cool combo piece here because it's like a removal spell, but it's also a combo piece. I'm a little surprised here, honestly, that Caleb didn't just kill the Sanctum Weaver with this extra copy of Withering. It feels like this game would be locked up if the Weaver wasn't there. But right now, Weaver is tapping for 4 mana, which should give Rint the enough things, to get the ball rolling if there is another enchantment. So I'm very, very surprised with Caleb leaving this Weaver alive, given the extra copy of Withering in hand.
Now, in my experience playing against the Sanctum Weaver enchantments deck, is that I've gotten blown out every single time, and I cannot make this up. I get blown out. They start drawing like 8 cards a turn, and somehow I like wait for them to deck out, and I just die before that. Sanctum Weaver taps for so much mana. It's just unreal how many cards that deck draws sometimes.
So it wasn't an enchantment; it was a cycling land. And again, if Caleb had killed the Sanctum Weaver on Caleb's turn, the mana for this play wouldn't have existed. So I'm very, very surprised at this. I don't really understand why Caleb would want to keep both Witherings in hand. Vesperlark can evoke as well, so I'm not really understanding.
Oh,
I mean,
that's the reason why you don't do it, right? Is because you're just going to draw the enchantment removal on the spot.
Yeah, I guess if now we get to try it again, but once again, passing the turn with not killing Weaver, I just don't understand what the thought process is here.
Now, obviously, Caleb is more 5-head than all of us. Okay, so he knows what he's doing.
Right, that's why I'm so perplexed. Caleb's obviously very, very good, but it looks like Rint is bricked on the enchantment anyway. So,
there we go. We draw Portable Hole also.
I mean, if it's gonna be nothing but heaters, I guess, sure.
Is there anything in Rint's deck that's at instant speed that could possibly be cast right now?
I would have to look.
Maybe this is just. Wait. This can't be the game, right? Oh, yeah, it can be, because the Meat Hook Massacre... Oh, wow, correct. That's a really, really good card for this deck. Not only is it removal, but it's also a way to win the game.
Exactly, yeah, for sure. Yeah, so ends up working out, of course, but again, that extra Withering never actually did anything, so not exactly sure why I didn't target the Sanctum at some point in those previous few turns, but worked out for Caleb.
So I'm being told here that the Sterling Grove that was on the board protected the Weaver's enchantment from dying to Withering, which is the reason why they didn't do it.
It was at one point,
but then it got Vanishing Verse,
before
right?
And after it.
Yeah, it got Vanishing Verse.
Correct. So there are points before and after the Sterling Grove being on the battlefield where Caleb could have killed the Weaver, and just chose not to over multiple turns, which is very interesting.
Obviously, they knew how this game was going to pan out, and didn't make that decision on purpose, of course.
Work perfectly.
We see this in the sideboard here. We see Leyline of the Void. Don't really see that card being played in Historic a lot, but we see it here. Really good against Phoenix. Really good. I mean, obviously, it's just an amazing card in general. But for some reason, Leyline of the Void just isn't played in Historic usually. Especially, I haven't seen it on ladder in probably over 6 months.
Yeah, the big thing about Leyline is that it's really good against absolutely broken graveyard decks where you have to have it on turn 0. Decks like Dredge is a real big one there. And those decks don't really exist in Historic. The graveyard decks they're like Arclight Phoenix. They use the graveyard, but if you play a Leyline, they have plenty of other ways to kill you. And ley lines are a huge cost. I personally hate ley lines because I always draw it on my 8th card. You know, it's the kind of card where if you expect the game to go longer than 2 or 3 turns, it's just really rough because you never want to draw it. You can't even cast it most of the time. So it's kind of like an all-in graveyard hate card, and there aren't really many all-in graveyard decks in Historic right now.
Right, especially because decks that are all in the graveyard, kind of like in game ones, like Phoenix or maybe even this Davriel's Withering deck here, can kind of pivot in games 2 and 3, right? Because Phoenix does bring in other threats. They have Stormwing Entity. They have Sprite Dragon, and they have the 4 Toughness Dragon. It's not actually a dragon. Crackling Drake. Weird that drakes aren't dragons, but they kind of, all these decks kind of know what's going on games 2 and 3 with the graveyard hate, so they just pivot into other threats. Which,
well, the thing is that that's not even a pivot because all those cards are in the main deck anyway. You know, so the decks just have plenty of other ways to win. It's not like there's any one deck in Historic where I have no graveyard in play. I literally can't function. You know, whereas an older format's Dredge actually just can't function if there's no graveyard.
Well, actually, this specific deck that Caleb's playing doesn't function if something's in the graveyard, but other than that, yeah.
That is true. This is a very, usually the versions I've seen of this deck are much more like aristocrat-y, creature-y based.
Yeah.
But the upside to that is that Caleb is playing cards like Portable Hole, Vanishing Verse, and has the ability to remove a ley line or to remove a Rest in Peace, which is kind of cool too.
Yeah.
So cool version of a deck here from Caleb.
I really like Meat Hook Massacre, and taking the control role because you do get to play Meat Hook Massacre and you don't have to play cards that, like a creature that's a 1/1 that pings, or a 1/1 that if something dies, you know, ping your opponent or drain your opponent when something dies. That's the version of the deck that I remember seeing. Because the Meat Hook Massacre came out, it allows you to play this control role in the deck to have that card just sitting on the battlefield and also part of your win condition.
Yeah, super cool. Because most of the cards that were part of the win condition were not very good. You know, Blood Artist, just a very fragile creature, doesn't really do anything. And Meat Hook is, like you said, it's a removal spell, and it's not fragile. It's very durable, actually.
Right.
So.
And usually Fracture here isn't really played in Historic either, but we see Fracture being played here. One cool thing about Fracture is you do get to kill Planeswalkers with it, I believe, unless I'm wrong. I think you do. And it kills artifacts and enchantments. One of the reasons why I don't like it is because it can't kill creatures, but you probably, like, in this deck that Caleb's playing, you have a lot of things to kill creatures, like Meat Hook Massacre and Davriel's Withering and all these kind of things.
This is great. So perfect draw there with Massacre and other combos lined up. And we killed the 2/2. And of course, Rinse turn wasn't very good there. It's making a 2/2. So Rinse hand seems pretty bad. We'll see if Cycle here also says it's not very good. So we'll see if
I look for Rest in Peace.
The thing is that even off the top here, Spike the Rest in Peace, but Fracture is just waiting in the wings also. Even the Talisman's waiting too. So Caleb's got everything covered here.
Land also.
Even with no Fracture, Caleb could just go play land, Talisman for Portable Hole, the Rest in Peace, Vesper Luck, Withering, win the game. So didn't even need the Fracture.
Here we go. Evoking it. This should be the game.
Yep. So this is a very cool version of his deck. It does feel like Meat Hook Massacre was a piece that was missing from his deck. It looks very impressive.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this deck took the entire thing, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm impressed. What is Caleb's record currently?
I don't know, actually. Double check that. That was just extremely impressive.
Yeah, that was for sure.
We didn't get to see game 1 where Rint did take game 1. But other than that seemed very impressive.
Caleb is now 3-0.
Yep. I mean, I would, like I said, I would not be surprised if he just runs the table here.
Do you want to make our picks? Do you want to each pick a player?
I'll pick Caleb for this.
What? There's my idea. All right, fine. That's fine. I'll pick someone else. I'll pick someone else. You wanted to pick Caleb. That's why you said this. Is there a friendly wager going on here? I hadn't decided yet. You can have Caleb. I'm gonna take a look down here, and I'm going to go with Chris Kvartek, who is obviously a phenomenal player, and is also playing the mono red Madness deck that I played. So I got to be a little bit of homer here. So I'll pick Chris Kvartek, who's currently also 2-0, and it looks like Chris is still playing against LA Dragon in this round right now.
You know what we could do? We could just neither of us we could neither of us pick Caleb, and then watch Caleb beat all of our decks.
but that guarantees a loss for us. I want to guarantee a win, you know?
All right. So if I'm not going with Caleb, you can take. Actually, you know what? Are you sticking with your guns in Chris Kvartek? Because I can pick someone else.
No, I'm good.
All right, I'm gonna pick Ali Eldrazi. I can't not pick the the Niv Mizzet Reborn.
All right, so we're gonna both pick our homer decks.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
sure,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
fair.
Yeah,
So
we have to.
we'll pick our homer decks. Caleb's gonna win the whole tournament, and we're both gonna be wrong. Sounds good to me.
All right, so let's go ahead and look at the one you just mentioned here. Let's go ahead and look at Elliot Dragon here playing in game 2, with his looks like a blue-white deck, blue-white control. It looks like.
Let's take a look.
Actually, this is not on ladder, is it? I don't know the name Siege.
Correct. Yeah, this is a ladder match.
All right, so we're not gonna watch that. We're gonna watch somebody else, of course.
I mean, it looked. All right, so that match just finished actually. So it had not finished when I said that. Now it has finished, and it looks like Elliot did beat Chris CovertGoBlue. So.
Well, great pick, Jim. Great pick.
Wait, well, that's weird. So on Melee, it says that Elliot is reported and 1-2-0, but I look at CovertGoBlue, it says playing against Elliot Dragon not reported. So I don't know. Melee's been I don't know, making some. Now it's reported. Okay, so yes, Elliot Dragon defeated Chris CovertGoBlue. Good pick, Jim. Good pick.
Great pick, Jim. Great pick.
Yep.
All
Where's
right.
Ollie?
I am trying to find a match that is still being played here. We did find one here. We have Medicus Dota once again playing against Talia Vest. Talia Vest is playing a green-white company deck, which Talia Vest did make top 4 of Stream League 3 with.
What we're watching from Talia's side?
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, let's see what we got here. Scavenging Ooze is here. The question is it here enough? Crackling Drake is monstrous. I think that the Harbingers of Doom are back at it again, because looking like Talia doesn't have an answer to this Crackling Drake or entity here. Ooze is good, but a little more nickel and dimey than this absolutely monstrous Crackling Drake.
Yeah, Crackling Drake is definitely no flyers. We have some life gain here, but looking like Medicus Dota is going to take this, and we get to be the Harbinger here.
Yep.
Doesn't look like that Talia Vest can force Medicus Dota into a certain block with the Stormwing entity. Even if that could happen, Dragonwave Chinner could become a 3/3 next turn. Crackling Drake has 5 power, could be 6 power next turn, and Talia Vest is at 6, and we're going to go to the corner and concede.
The Harbinger of Doom strikes again. Who's next?
Who's next?
Find me another match.
Yeah, let's go.
I wish to decide someone's fate.
All right, let's go ahead and see if someone is still playing here. Make people playing on the ladder is definitely making this a little bit more confusing. But let's go ahead and see if someone is still playing.
Looks like Christmas is still going.
Looks like Christmas, maybe Svimixen's still going as well. Let's go ahead and head over to Christmas here to have them, to watch them play against Dragozi, playing the Gruul, looks like a Gruul aggro deck, featuring Rada and Domri.
I'm going to guess it's Bard class, if I had to guess.
Yep, looks like some legendaries on board.
Eclectic mix of red-green legendary creatures and Mox Amber feels like a dead giveaway to me.
Now, in my experience playing Bard class, is that the deck's kind of mediocre when you don't draw a Bard class, and we don't see a Bard class on Dragozi's side of the board, but Dragozi looks ahead here. Obviously, Christmas missing some land drops.
Yeah, for sure. You know, Rada, Grand Warlord Rada, and Rada Art of Keld aren't tier 1 constructed staples, but they're just well-statted, pretty good Magic cards, and they do attack for a decent amount here. 8's a lot. Domri's also, an unopposed Planeswalker currently. We have his mana floating from Rada also. More legends. Ooh.
Oh, it loses its static text when it dies and doesn't give the extra point of power. I've done that before.
The Harbinger of Doom strikes again.
I can't say I haven't done that, Jim.
Yeah, no, that's obviously a tough one there. So what happened was Domri is trying to activate the fight ability, and Gallia is currently a 3/2, looking to fight the Bone Crusher. But In order to fight, it removes all the loyalty from Domri. Therefore, the static ability goes away, and Gallia goes back to being a 2/2. And Gallio's like, yo, boss, should I really fight this Bone Crusher Giant? And at that point, it's too late. So, stomp. Stomp again.
Or Gallia got like ahead of itself, too much of a big head, getting that extra point of power and things like that. That's an extra 50% of power there. Maybe Gallia was like, hey, Domri, like, let me fight this thing. Like,
I can take
please.
it. Hold it back.
I can take it. I can take it. I can take it. And then Domri's like, are you sure about that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, maybe you shouldn't think. Let me do it. And that's what happened. Yeah. So we have a bunch of collected companies in hand, and not enough mana to show for it. We see a Crone War here, and something that Christmas likes to do in his decks, and he has done this in previous Stream Leagues, is play that one copy of Banefire to just get your opponent out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying earlier about Christmas's deck that the lands were replaced by the Paradise Druids, and obviously no Druids here, but we're seeing that lower land count being pretty risky. Gonna need to draw running lands here, and I don't even think that's good enough. Look at this. Who needs Bard Clash? Just cast your cards, and that's going to do it.
We'll take Brawler here, comes down, and it's going to be not good enough. Now we know why Christmas likes to play Paradise Druid.
Yeah. Ooh. The legend, the hits just keep on coming. Cloythus is here, and that's a pretty good fight.
What a legend.
That's a better fight than the last fight, and that'll do it. So, unfortunately, 2 lands is not enough to take down the Gruul suite of legends.
All right, and Dragozy takes that one down. It looks like Dragozy might be like 2-1 right now. Maybe even a 3-0 here. Playing the Bard class deck. We've covered him once before, I believe.
3-0, yep.
Yep, yeah, Bard class 3-0, pretty strong. Does Bard class have a chance to race the Vesperlark deck?
I mean, the Bard class deck is extremely fast on its best hands, but that, of course, has to happen. You have to play Bard class on 2, activate it on 3, and then have that big pop-off turn. Consistency is certainly going to be an issue here, I think. And we saw in Caleb's deck a number of ways to remove Bard class as well. So we shall see. It'll be an exciting, explosive match, that's for sure.
All right, so I'm trying to see if we have one more match remaining. It looks like JimDavisMTG was the one that was the one that was playing their match, but their match doesn't seem to show up for me. Minor technical difficulty here, but I don't think we can see JimDavisMTG's match. We are trying our best to give you as many matches as possible per round, and we are giving you what we want. But unfortunately, when we go into people's matches, we tend to be harbingers of doom, and our opponent they just die immediately when we get to their match. Let's go ahead and see if we can find. It looks like they have already finished. Actually, they just finished.
Fortunately, or unfortunately, I prefer fortunately.
Yeah, fortunately.
Dude.
All right, that is the last match of the round here. So we are going to take a quick, short break, and we will be back with round 4 of Stream League 6. There are 5 rounds in this tournament, and then we'll be moving on to the top 8, where we will be doing interviews of the top 8 winners to find the next winner of Stream League 6 and take home the championship, a crown and bragging rights until Stream League 7. So we'll be back with round 4 coming soon. All right, welcome back, everyone, to Stream League 6, sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com. We're beginning round 4 here in a second. Let's go ahead and talk about the deck lists. We have Chris Kovartek playing Mono Red, one of your favorites, your favorite actually, to win this tournament. Mono Red Discard. I forgot the name of it off the top of my head. Mono Red Madness. There we go. Mono Red Madness, playing against the Gruul Werewolves deck that we had seen previously. What are your kind of key points if you want the Madness deck to win here against the Gruul deck that's probably a little bit bigger than the Madness deck creatures?
Yeah, I mean, this Madness deck is awesome. You know, I built this deck for the Arena Open last weekend. A lot of players cashed with it. I didn't, unfortunately. I went 5-2. But deck is very, very lean and feels a lot like almost like a modern deck where it has a lot of cheap threats. You know, Bowman Courier, Janneler. Also a lot of removal, though. 4 Unholy Heat, 4 Fiery Tempers. It does struggle against larger creatures. However, the Gruul deck is playing a lot of, it's not playing, Bone Crusher Giant and or things like, what's the 4/4 for green, whatever, and Steel Leaf Champion. It is playing, creatures that are very fiery temperable. We're talking about Kessig Naturalist, Werewolf Pack Leader, Tolvar, Reckless Stormseeker. All of these cards die to temper. And of course, everything dies to Unholy Heat. So I got to say, I think that Kovartek here is pretty favored. Also, the flying creature is going to be really, really good too. A spot where Nightback Ambusher is not going to be super exciting, and I think that the trickiness of the Gruul deck is going to favor our mono red player.
Yeah, it would have been like a little bit more interesting to see the Gruul deck, if the Gruul deck played like more 4 toughness creatures, but a lot of things dying to temper is going to be. It's going to be a very, very efficient way for Kovartek to win the game. And just a lot of the cards that this deck plays is just very efficient as well.
Yeah, this is a cool spot too here because Bowman Courier is so cool in this deck. We could see a Bowman Courier next turn activate to discard all these cards in hand for maximum value. Cast 2 Tempers, cast Rootwalla. Like the Courier can draw a card also. So very interesting spot here. Not a thing you usually see Courier activating with like 4 or 5 cards in hand, but it is a possible option. Also, could just just Fiery Temper miss Overlord here and do that too.
Curious to see if we attack here and then Fiery Temper after attacks.
So we're going to see the block. And I think we're going to see Courier cracked here. And when the Courier is cracked, the Rootwallas and the Tempers can be cast. I'm not sure. It's a tough spot. The Phoenix being cast is interesting too because it would have come back off all these spells.
Right.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, that the Temper wasn't just cast straight up.
Me too.
So now this is obviously really cool, but like there's a lot of resources being lost here. So there's your Madnesses. We can see bolts on Overlord and bolt on the Wolf. Cleans the board up pretty good.
Which is not like if you discarded the cards, yes. Resources lost, yes. But the only thing you really, really lost here is the land, right?
Right, two lands, yeah. And then drawing 2 cards here. I mean, that was pretty good. Pyromancer is phenomenal. Phoenix is good too.
I mean, I've never seen a better Bowman Courier discarding 5 cards ever in my life, though.
Yeah, that's probably the coolest part about this deck too. Is that Courier is obviously a great card in mono red decks, but you got to get your hand empty typically. But in this deck, you're just like, all right, just dump them all. It's great. And obviously, Unholy Heat here, great draw, and Phoenix again being cast. And I mean, the beats are coming on. We got, and then of course the cool thing about this red deck is that it just draws a lot of freaking cards. Like Pyromancer's in hand now, Hellbent ready to draw 2 more cards. There's 2 flyers in play. Rootwall is hanging out, and the velocity of this deck is very impressive.
We're going to see a couple 2/2s on the battlefield, but no match to our Managorger Phoenixes being flying. Oh, we got a land. That's really good for Blazing Rootwalla.
Yep. So great draw. Now Pyromancer just draws 2. The cards keep coming.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm not going to lie. I've been pretty unimpressed with Arwen in Standard. So here in Historic, not looking as good. And not going to offer to trade Rootwalla for the Wolves wanted to cast a Channeler, which already has Delirium. So tons of power in the air now. Also has Remnant Ruins in play too. Things are looking very, very good. It's about how I thought it would play out, honestly. A lot of removal spells, a lot of efficient spells.
I see the attack coming in here, 3/3 into 2/2. If you're Kovartek, are you blocking?
Yes, absolutely. This game is going to be 1 in the air, and no real fear of, if there was 4 mana up, it'd be a fear of Nightback Ambusher, but
Also, I would be tempted to like block with the Pyromancer since we do have that guaranteed 5th land. Pyromancer comes back out of the grave.
Correct. Yeah, I would block with the Pyromancer also on the 2/2 and left Channeler in play. I guess there isn't much removal in the Gruul deck. It is open deck list too, but that works. And now we just see attack in the air twice, and the game's pretty over. There's no like Embercleave style card for the Gruul deck. There are 4 copies of Shatter Skull Smashing, which could clear the road a little bit here, but still not enough damage to get through. Actually, I'm sorry, it isn't exactly lethal here. But then the Pyromancer dies, you get token blockers too. So all in all, I think this game is pretty wrapped
even
up.
if there's a Shadow Skull Smashing, we do get 2 token blockers, which is
Exactly.
would have been a scary way to lose there.
Exactly. Yeah. Without that 5th land, might want to reconsider last turn's attacks and stuff. But yeah, this looks pretty good. Don't die.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Yep. What is there? Is there a card Echo can play here? Is there a Tarkus command or something here?
No.
Okay.
I suppose a Shadow Skull Smashing on like Channeler and Mana Gorger would be potentially a way out with the mana gotten from the Uvenwald, but looks like that's not going to happen. So 4 Smashing is a lot. There are 4 full copies of Smashing in this Gruul deck, kind of leaning on that to be the removal spell of choice.
Yeah, I don't. Wow, there it is.
So the problem is that's the Smashing, but it doesn't kill the Channeler, and then Channeler plus Ruins is lethal, and the tokens are also lethal. So close, but not quite. And there it is. Kvarta takes game 1.
Oh, that was just displaying like how really efficient this deck really is. Like using the Bomat Courier to draw 2 cards, but also discarding your hand and still casting 3 of the cards. Like that's crazy.
Yeah, the deck plays like a modern deck. Now I'm interested to see how Chris sideboards here, because in a matchup like this, I would board out all the Wallas and all the Bomat Couriers and become more of a board control deck, bringing in like the Chandras. I didn't have Bone Crusher in my list, which is kind of like an even more good card against decks like this.
Did you have Magmatic Channeler in your list?
Oh yeah, the main deck is exactly the same as my main deck. It's my 60 cards, and then the sideboard is almost the same, but it is +4 Bone Crusher, I think -2 Lavamancer, and 2 of something else. So sideboard a little bit differently. I would have cut the Wallas also, and I think cutting Channeler is a little weird too, because Channeler is very, very good, obviously, and it kind of plays into that sort of like you become this mono red sort of Jund board control deck where you just kill all their stuff, draw a bunch of cards, and make a bunch of flyers and kill them.
Right. That's kind of like when I play my Boros mid-range decks against other aggro decks. I kind of become that, like control deck, like more of a mid-range deck, yes, but more on the control side, bringing in the Bone Crusher Giants, having the Chandra Torch of Defiance, having the big Shadow Skull Smashing plays that kind of control the board while I get in there against the other aggro decks. But I like doing that kind of thing, and the reason why I love mid-range decks is that I can kind of pivot against other aggro decks, and this mono red deck can actually kind of do similar things, right? It can become that like kill your opponent's creatures deck and get in with flyers.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, like the deck draws a lot of cards, like realistically, and the Bomat Couriers and the Root Wallows, they get in for early damage, but like once you know what your role in the matchup is going to be, you can really, really alter it with your sideboard, which is really cool.
Let's see the opening hand here. We have 2 lands here. I think I'm snapping this.
Yeah, and again, Channeler is amazing in this hand. I'm surprised that he boarded out a Channeler.
He knew he was going to draw one in his opening hand.
I guess, yeah.
It's the foresight. I see turn 1 Dragon Rage Channeler here. We see a pack leader come out on turn 2. Best card to play. Land is a very good draw, especially with these seasoned Pyromancers in our hand. Plays out the Magmatic Channeler. What is your turn looking like? I mean, I think the turn is scripted here from Kvartek, right? Play the Pyromancer, discard both Root Wallows, play them both.
I might be more interested in just channeling one of the Root Wallows, honestly. Like, you can play the Pyromancers later and try and draw a removal spell. It'll depend on what's drawn here and what's played from Echo, but I think I would rather just discard a Wallet of a Channeler and start getting that ball rolling and try and find some spells. Because the Pyromancer doesn't block particularly well. The tokens can kind of team up to block too, but I think... All right, well, Chris disagrees. So going to play Walla Walla and put 4 1/1s into play.
Like putting 4 ones into play, drawing 2 cards, that's extremely strong. Just like
Yeah, it's definitely a good turn.
Yeah.
But now our channeler got wasted for the turn, and we didn't cast any spells for our other channeler. So I'm not sure. I'm not sure. If we had discarded Walla, we still would be able to stomp, maybe found a card off channeler as well. But both options are quite good.
Now, at this point, we don't even need more lands, right? Magnetic Channeler draws additional cards that could potentially be lands. Fiery Temper is just 1 mana. Seasoned Pyromancer can draw lands. You realistically don't even have to play a land for the next couple turns and be fine. With the Mana George or Phoenix, like Bone Crusher Giant is a 3 mana card. Even you can just cast Fiery Temper for 3 if you wanted to. I don't think we even... Like, everything's basically a good draw from KavarTech right now at this point.
So this is the problem with the play last turn, where now Pack Leader's attack, Echo draws 2 cards. These blocks aren't even that good. And now what? Like, that turn didn't feel very good, you know? Whereas, like, if we had just put a Walla in play, maybe Bone Crush or something, or drawn a removal spell, you know, like, and done other things that might have been better, but we'll see. That was a pretty good attack for Echo. I mean, getting in for 3, drawing 2 cards, all feels pretty awesome.
Someone in chat says, great seeing Jim commentating his own deck.
Works out well.
There's no goblins in this. What's going on here? That's not on brand.
I mean, I played like a lot of both on stream and that arena weekend was awesome too. So now we're gonna see. This is a temper targeting a wolf and not the pack leader. So I'm very interested in attacking Arwen, it looks like here.
And the Bone Crusher Giant could attack the wolf also.
Yeah. It's also somewhat an interesting choice too. Kind of just ignoring the pack leader. A lot of blockers for it, which is fair.
This might be why he's an MPL player and I'm not. Or former MPL player.
Yeah, but this seems good. Yeah, I mean, this works out pretty well. Kind of just, so basically just saying I'm going to ignore this pack leader and just get in this turn, kill Arlen, and if I take 3 off the pack leader or whatever kind of thing.
Right.
Again, this is I was discussing about how I was viewing the matchup. Clearly, Chris views it a little bit differently than I do. So in my mind, I don't want to attack. I want to be the kind of the control deck here. But Chris seems more than happy to just like get some points in and trade blows a little bit and kind of play that faster game rather than the slower game.
With KavarTech here with a bunch of creatures on board at 11, the most that Echo can do here is like, from what we're seeing on board currently is 5, right? Just pump the werewolf attack. And that's not enough, right? Being at 13, Echo's gonna die to the root wall is like in the Dragon Rage channels like that are already on board.
Yeah, I mean there are hasters in the wolf deck, of course. You know, there's the Stormseeker and so on, and we are post board, so you know possible removal spells as well. But things are looking quite good for KavarTech here. Ooh!
Oh wow,
that's a pretty good one. And now we're going to see the channelers shrink. And
that was best card to play, probably.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And the ooze can grow itself as well.
Gains life.
You're going to eat the creature. Now it's a 4/4. Yeah, and got to play land again immediately. And looks like it's going to be Mana Gorge or Phoenix and Seasoned Pyromancer, which is pretty good. You know, make a flyer, draw some more cards.
It's a Shadow Skull Smashing, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana in play right now. We can kill the Werewolf Pack Leader with the Shadow Skull Smashing next turn. The Scavenging Ooze is a problem, though.
Yeah, I mean, the Ooze also cuts off the angle of the graveyard, obviously, in general. So that is one of the angles of attack from this mono red Menace deck. Now, the Phoenix is in play. There is a decent amount of attackers in play too, but as the Ooze grows, it becomes harder and harder to kill. Can't Unholy Heat it because there's no Delirium. So this game has got interesting for sure.
At the very least, the game's not going to be ending anytime soon.
Yeah.
More close. That's life gain now. That's a clock. Also, no need to attack anymore.
Yep. Okay. Now the question is there a creature in a graveyard right now?
This Clothis is super scary, especially being a creature right now, being indestructible.
But if there's a creature in the graveyard right now, then if there isn't a creature in the graveyard right now, then Shadow Skull can just kill the Scavenging Ooze, and that's probably going to be what's necessary to win this game. But I can't check the graveyard, so spectator mode, please. Discard Walla, Channeler. See what turns up.
I like how like these madness costs like directly gets around Scavenging Ooze because you discard them into exile that's printed on the card. It doesn't actually go to the graveyard.
Yes, and then that's a huge factor because otherwise a card like Rest in Peace would be very, very good against this deck. So, well, it looks like there's no creatures in graveyards. Can I double check here? Good idea. Good idea.
Great idea.
Yeah. All right, so that's funny. Yeah. Don't surveil a creature in the yard by accident.
Yeah.
So heads up play.
Now, barring not another Scavenging Ooze in opponent's hand, this is probably swings it back into the Kavartek's favor.
Oh, by a lot, yes.
All right, Klothys is going to target these Shadow Skull Smashing here. Funny that it's a land, but they don't get mana off of it because it's a sorcerer in the graveyard.
Yes.
Let's see. Werewolf Pack Leader has the option to grow itself. Doesn't really seem relevant right now. I think if what are you thinking about if you're Echo? Not of course not knowing their hand, but in this spot, what do you want?
It's tough because obviously Kavartek is very, very wide here. My thought process would probably be how can I sneak through a few points of damage and just kind of like cheese this game out. There's a 13 life. You can't take many hits here. Even an Alpha Strike is to do a lot of damage. And, you know, any mixture of spells hitting in Delirium for Channeler and stuff like that. So going to fire in here. And I think I like this.
Yeah, I like this too.
A draw. And then I think that Echo needs to win this game sooner rather than later. Despite having Klothys in play, there's just too much stuff in play for to handle.
All right, here's the damage that we're sneaking in here. Maybe give the Werewolf Path Lead. Maybe Echo decides to give this trample. That would deal 2 extra damage. Klothys either needs to get chump blocked or taking 4. Kavartek's in a spot right now where there's a lot of power on board, but you really just don't want to get cheesed.
Yeah, something has to block this Klothys for sure. So now potential maximum damage taken is 2, which isn't that bad.
Yeah, max damage is 2. There's a couple Ramunap Ruins on Kavartek's side of the board, so definitely an extremely fast clock. There's a Dragonlance Channeler on top, which there is no Delirium still, so it is just a 1/1. Really curious to see what Echo has in hand. Maybe he can animate the Klothys again. It's not going to matter since it's tapped.
The big thing here is that if Channeler can discard the Ruins, that's 2 cards towards Delirium. And then if the Channeler can find something good, maybe it's a spell, and then the Dragon Rage Channelers in play can do some scrying and get some more cards in the graveyard. If Delirium is hit next turn, the game is basically over. So we'll see if how this Magmatic Channeler will work out for us. Long think here from Echo, and smashing to roast the Wallas.
I mean, definitely not bad. I don't hate the from what the board state was earlier. I don't hate the spot that Echo's in.
All right, so hits 2 creatures off Channeler, and Pyromancer does play here. Makes blockers, of course, too. So I'm sorry, it draws cards. So wait, yeah, that's the
okay.
There's a Pyromancer in the graveyard and a Pyromancer in exile. There we go. So draw 2, Unholy Heat, perhaps.
More lands. There's another Ramunap.
Yes, I mean, deck has Bone Crusher Giant. So, I mean, this is, a pretty wide board, all things considered.
Is that a bug in Arena, by the way? The Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard showing 3 mana? Or is that something I don't know?
No, that Pyromancer...
Oh, that was definitely engraved.
Off of Channeler? I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
It was engraved, yeah. It was just exiled from Klothys.
Yeah, I don't know. That's weird.
For bug finding masters. All right, so we see the Reckless Stormseeker here. Gonna be able to. It's not nighttime. It is currently daytime, so the Klothys will not be able to have trample. Now, if Kavartek doesn't find a spell and it forces nighttime, which means that Reckless Stormseeker can actually give trample.
Yeah, I mean, between the draw step and the Channeler, Chris has 3 looks at a spell, so.
But even then, if the spell is drawn, it has to be cast unless If it doesn't get cast, well, I mean that's definitely gonna get cast.
Has that for spells? That one.
Yeah. That's kind of what I meant. What I was looking, kind of like what I was talking about. All right, we have looting and channeler.
I think I would have played land and cast Pyromancer first. Honestly, I'm a little surprised to see because Pyromancer could have drawn a temper, and then the temper could be off of the hit off a channeler. So I'm a little surprised at the ordering here. Bin some cards, looking for Delirium.
Okay.
Right. That's a lot of lands. So now we have Sorcery, Land, Creature. So Pyromancer's going to draw 2 here.
I think Chris might just be looking just for Delirium here.
Just going to go for the looting?
Yep.
All right. It is 5 more cards to look at. So
I don't hate this play. Going for the Dragon Rage Channeler attacks is pretty good. Wow. What are they looking for here?
An instant. And not finding one.
Holy crap. Brew Wall gets cast, which is a blocker. Managorger Phoenix gets some counters here. Seasoned Pyromancer, I guess? I mean
there is another looting in the graveyard, so it's only 11 though.
But is looting the other sorcery? Is there another sorcery?
Oh, there's not. You're correct. Yeah, I mean, this feels very aggressive to me. Like, even if the Delirium is hit, it's still only 11 damage, and Echo is at 13. So, Pyromancer draws. See, there's Temper. Get it for 2. Clothis will eat something.
Probably looting.
And I imagine it's the Phoenix. I don't even know, honestly.
Oh, it could be. Yeah, probably the Phoenix.
Yeah, I mean, looting also makes sense too. Yeah, looting makes sense because the trying to keep channelers off of being delirious next turn.
Yep.
But the small life gain from Clothis is really adding up here because these channelers have just been pretty embarrassing for the last few turns. That also feels like a reason why Bonecrusher is a little awkward in the deck too, because the creature is the most popular type of card in the deck aside from land, and we've seen Bonecrushers drawn here, and they're not an instant, So the Channeler Delirium has been a little rough this game.
Yeah, but between the Clothis, between the Scavenging Ooze, like once that Scavenging Ooze hit, I didn't think that Dragon Rage Channeler was ever going to reach Delirium for the rest of the game. But that Shadow Soul Smashing hitting that, Clothis still trying to. It feels like a kind of like a tug of war for Delirium right now.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that Chris missed about a half a dozen times or more last turn.
Yeah.
Like there are still a lot of instances of a deck. Now Courier's out of a deck, so there's no artifact for Delirium, but there's plenty of instances of a deck as well. Obviously, there's just Temper in hand now too, so this game should probably end next turn. It's 3, 6, 9, 12. It's got 14 damage on board, as long as none of these channelers get taken care of. Again, there are 4 Shadow Soul Smashings in this deck, so.
Oh.
All right.
I did forget about Nightpack Avisher in this deck. Oh, going in on an all-out attack.
So this is a smart play, honestly, because this might force blocks from channelers. It forces blocks from everything else, obviously. I don't think that Kavarta can afford to go to 2 here, so everything has to get blocked.
Because if he goes to 2, there's extra mana right there for a potential Bonecrusher Giant.
All right, so
are we gonna go to 2?
There's actually no burn in the Gruul deck that goes face.
Okay, so being on the deck list really helps the blocks here.
Absolutely, yeah. No Embercleave, no burn spell. The only burn spells are Shadow Soul Smashing, Magma Spray, and a Braid. So that wipes the board to the point where now no longer Chris has lethal. So we have 3, 6, 7, 8.
Did we get there with the Temper though?
I don't think so. Well, there's another instant. So that's 3, 6, 7, 8. If the Magmatic Channeler can get up to its 4 power, maybe, but that's not. We're not even close to that yet. So discard Phoenix and Temper. Temper's going face. Is this lethal? Is my math wrong here?
The Phoenixes come up, but they can't block. They also can't attack.
So 3, 6, 7, 8, 9.
There it is. That's lethal. That's on board.
The
plus double Dragon Rage.
All right, so the Channeler did make it all the way. Okay. So that was the part. It was only on 1 at the start of the turn, so I wasn't sure we were going to make it or not. But there you go. So kind of a weird game, honestly. Really, really back and forth, and a lot of different spots. It felt like the tide, like you were saying, the tug of war tide was turning back and forth.
Yep,
But
yep.
overall, Monterey Phoenix takes it down.
All right, let's go ahead and check out one of our other feature matches here. Go ahead and go over to Caleb playing Vestibular Art Combo against Arne Huschenbeck playing Blue Art Phoenix. Let's see if this matchup is still going on right now.
It looks like it is.
All right, it is still going on here. So let's go ahead and transition. We're going into game 3 in sideboarding right now. So let's go ahead and talk about the sideboards. We see Leyline of the Void going in against the Phoenix deck.
So 3 ley lines, just interesting. Again, obviously helps turn off Phoenix, Looting, and Finale, and Unholy Heat, but not a ton else. So kind of interesting.
You know, you want 3 of them. You don't quite want the 4th one because you don't want to draw it, but you also don't want to draw many of them if you don't want to open your opening hand, but you also kind of want a good chance of opening it in your opening hand. So, 3 and not 4. And, we see that paying off here with Leyline of the Void in the opening hand, of course.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I agree with this boarding and ley line here, but obviously it works out perfectly for Caleb because Caleb's better than I am. So there's the ley line, and the hand looks perfect. And I also love this Phyrexian Arena, 3 copies. Really, kind of we were talking about earlier about this sort of being more of a control deck, kind of like control combo, which is really, really cool.
Plus, my second favorite to win this tournament, Caleb. Trust me, second favorite. Okay.
Well, there's Soul Guide Lantern, so something to beat right off the bat. But again, Caleb's deck has portable holes and vanishing versus. I guess verse can't kill it, but whatever. Plenty of ways to kill. Plenty of ways to kill that.
All right, so Inquisition sees a Looting, a Sprite Dragon, a Braid. We have a Stormwing Entity also. One thing we don't. What is the card type that we don't see in this hand?
It's the most important one. Got to cast spells.
Which means, do you just take the Looting and hope they don't draw lands?
I think so.
Going for the chi.
I think so. There's also my Force a Cycle on the Soul Guide Lantern, but if no land is drawn here, which is kind of cool as well. Yep, there you go. So backdoor way to kill Soul Guide Lantern is to mana screw them. That works out pretty well. All right, found a land, but
is that gonna be enough?
Yeah, so Sprite Dragon is good. It's kind of cute here that a Braid can kill the Talisman. And we're going to see an iteration over Sprite Dragon. So really valuable making land drops over putting a threat in play.
I don't know. Against a deck like Caleb's, would you have put the threat in play?
I would have leaned towards that. Again, also open deck list, so we know Phyrexian Arena is there. I don't know if our Phoenix players saw Arena in game 2, but I think if they knew the Arena was in hand for game 3, they probably would have played the Sprite Dragon there because you're not outgrinding Phyrexian Arena. You got to kill your opponent.
Especially since Arena. Especially since Blue-Red can't really deal with Phyrexian Arena.
Oh, it is there for the rest of the game, absolutely. And Phyrexian Arena completely alters the texture of the game because you're never going to outdraw your opponent anymore. But you can obviously race them pretty well. And real boomer magic card. I love Phyrexian Arena. Super awesome card. My first ever tournament I played was the state championships in 2003 or something. I played a zombie deck with 4 Chrome Mox and 4 Phyrexian Arena. So you would go land, Chrome Mox, Imprint, Arena, turn 1, go.
Wow.
Those games were fun. I love Phyrexian Arena. And there's your ley line. So Caleb was right on turn 1. I was right on turn 4 here, where that ley line looks pretty bad.
Much. Well, he was taking the odds. That's why he put 3 in the deck and not 4. Taking the odds to not eventually draw 1.
Very fair. Very fair. And a lot of kind of a weird hand here with a lot of talismans. We have 1 combo piece, and of course, I guess once Meathook Massacre is in play and talismans are ready to go too, the combo is lined up.
All right, each player gets -0/-0. You'll love to see it.
Yep.
I do that with Orcus all the time. Each creature gets -0/-0. It's the best thing. Considering some options here. We talked about this earlier. If you didn't catch this earlier, that Consider is considerably better than Opt here in this deck.
You couldn't hear it. It was in my headphones. Whatever.
Oh, I laughed.
I read the laugh track though. Citizen Pyromancer.
Thank you, Chris Patello, for the raid. I take it that your tournament run is over, or you're stopping streaming. But if your tournament run is over, we did catch one of your matches, and an unfortunate turn of events there with the with the shifting Ceratops, 3 of them drawn there.
Yes. All right, so 2 mana open here. Interaction is potentially available. I mean, could go for it with Talisman getting Vesper Lark and Withering, but under no real duress to do so. And honestly, a Meat Hook here on 2 is pretty good.
You said no real duress to do so. Are we just naming cards in our actual conversation here? I mean, we can keep doing that if you want.
Oh yeah, I want to actually.
Okay.
So
Let's keep
gonna
trying.
really try and sink his hooks into his opponent here. And we're going to see a Braid on Talisman. So obviously this looks great for Caleb because Caleb has 2 more Talismans in play. Very Talisman flooded.
We're actually just seeing the power of Meat Hook Massacre here, just being a combo piece and also doing with our opponent's board. Like, what more could you want if you're Caleb and just playing? Like, what more could this deck want? Like you said earlier, it's like the missing piece.
Yeah, absolutely. And then honestly, our life gain's great too. Keeps you alive, fuels Phyrexian Arena. Very impressive this list from Caleb.
All right, so we have 5 mana available for Arne Huschenbeth here. I think maybe like I kind of like Chandra uptick Sprite Dragon, but I guess 2 Sprite Dragons still works.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna see what the draws are here. Still, obviously looking for the combo pieces. I mean, a mana short here could play Talisman and kind of set up for next turn. And of course, casting Chandra taps Arnie out mostly for turn in theory. You know, so we're trying to play around potential interaction, things like that. Caleb's hand is not amazing right now.
I think the reason I like casting Chandra and then adding 2 red mana, then casting Sprite Dragon afterwards, is next turn you get to utilize Chandra for mana if you need to just like cast your whole hand if you wanted to.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it is. So the Consider changes things too, I think. So now with Consider available, it would not be possible to go Chandra plus Dragon plus Consider. It's too much blue mana. So I think Consider makes their play make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think also I think a really big attack here would just be really inconsiderate to Caleb's gameplay here.
Very fair. Yeah, this could be a very big turn. And now Caleb with double Talisman up as well next turn has the ability to probably combo with backup next turn. You know, it can be Talisman for Duress or whatever, Talisman for Vesper Lark, and then cast everything. Is there enough for that? 1, 2, 3, 4. With a land draw, there's enough for that, yes.
Might not look like there's a land drawn. The land would probably be played unless they're thinking about casting Expressive Iteration or Chandra.
Yeah, this is a big spot. It's a big turn for Arnie. And it's funny because, like, Caleb could just die here, in theory. You know, like, there are sequences of cards where, you know, cantrip, burn spell, whatever, that could win the game on the spot. So we'll see.
Does Withering give -1, -2, or -2, -1?
-1, -2.
Okay, so I guess in theory, if there's no instant speed card in Arne's hand, that Withering could deal with one of these Sprite Dragons, but you also need to save the Withering as well for your combo.
Correct. Yeah, I think if Caleb wanted to kill a Sprite Dragon, it would have happened on Caleb's end step in response to the Consider. Because casting Withering on a Dragon here would be extremely, extremely risky.
Also, next turn, I guess setting up for playing both Talismans plays around a Braid, which is good. If they have a Braid, you still have 1 Talisman left over. You can use the Talisman for the Vesper Lark, or you can draw it for a turn. That's also good. We do kind of want to play around. Like, is there a Thoughtseizure Inquisition in the deck here to just kind of scope the hand before we go off here?
Yeah, I mean, Talisman for discard spell, see if the coast is clear, win the game. So there needs to be 2 interaction points for Arnie here. So love the play.
If there's 1 interaction point, this Inquisition takes it. The game, Caleb wins right here.
Yep, game's over.
The fact that Vesper Lark and Withering is so efficient just makes this combo so good.
Yeah, and this is interesting because if Arnie has a counterspell here of some kind to stop the Inquisition, now the question is, does Caleb still go for it? Because any sort of shock effect can target the Vesper Lark in response to the Withering and break the combo up.
Yep.
And that'll win the game on the spot. So we're going to see. Oh, this is awesome too.
Wow. Meat Hook Massacre is being bounced.
And that's probably going to win the game. That's got to do it, right? So now, unable to go off this turn and unable to defend himself, Caleb doesn't really have anything else to do.
Like Fracture, one of the things I said that I don't like about it is the fact that it doesn't deal with creatures.
Yeah, definitely.
Because like right now, technically, Fracture could go like the card that Fracture could have been, I guess, would go towards one Sprite Dragon, Withering towards another one, stay alive. You still have the Talisman in play. Search for another Withering next turn, try to stay alive on the following turn, and then win the game next turn.
Yeah, now the big problem here, of course, is that Talisman is a risky card indeed. Now the Talisman is now on Arnie's side of the board.
Yeah.
So whatever piece Arnie would need to either kill Caleb or to buy time next turn is going to be available to him at the wish of a monkey's paw. So this is probably
that was good.
Probably going to do it.
That was good. I got to give you that one.
All right. So and there it was. So the Unholy Heat was also there. So had multiple points of interaction. We're going to see.
Wait, what does this even do if you do the combo right now? What does this do?
This will draw the game.
Oh my gosh, so he's going for the draw.
Yes. So
oh no. Oh no.
Little chess game here, gonna offer the draw.
Oh, not like this.
Yeah.
Oh and, my goodness.
Now the thing is that I think this just happens.
It happens forever.
And the game will draw once it realizes it's a draw. So I don't think the rope is a factor here. And this is why I think that they should errata the Withering to have this combo not work. I think that the combo itself isn't particularly too good. It was obviously missed in development, no question. But not really the spirit or intent of the Withering card to do this. And then this game state right now of I can choose to draw the game whenever I want to is exceedingly lame. It takes a while to actually do mechanically. Arena's not really set up for it. So
yeah, it takes a while for Arena to like realize what's going on too.
Right. So I don't know how long it's going to take. I never seen this actually happen. The four of us could take 5 minutes. I have no idea. And I don't even know whose clock we're on right now, honestly. I mean,
it looks like we're on Artist's clock.
Yeah, which would be really stupid if that was the case. But yeah, I think that one of the beautiful things about these arena-only cards, which I think are awesome, by the way.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow for
please
for top 8.
Yeah, but one of the really cool things about these cards is they can just errata them. The fact that the historic only, arena only digital cards exist only on Arena means that's pretty funny. I haven't seen that one before. It means that they can just errata it and they can just make Withering.
What's happening?
It's game 4.
All right, more magic.
Game 4. Let's go.
You can't win the game. Make another game.
Yep. So and I've seen this before. In constructed cards like Char. Char is 3-mana instant, deal 4 to one target and 2 to yourself, where one player can't win and they're both at 1. So I'll just char you, just draw the game, which play again. So it happens in tournaments for sure. But yeah, I think they could just errata their Withering to give -0, -2 rather than -1, -2, which would nullify the combo. I think that's a thing that should happen personally. And again, not necessarily a thing that's broken, but just not. It's broken in a sense that like the game shouldn't operate like this kind of thing.
Right. I wonder how Arne's chat is feeling about this. Can we get a nice look-see to Arne's chat here going on, being in flames right now?
Yeah. Well, found the ley line again, but again, this is why I don't like ley lines. Is Caleb's gonna keep this hand? Caleb is an absolute maniac.
No.
How do you feel
he's like, Arne's probably mad at me right now. I'm just gonna get some bonus points and just like make him not mad at me.
Because the problem is leyline is not, like an end all be all. There's a Sprite Dragon. Caleb doesn't draw lands. Caleb's dead. Yeah, I mean, all right, that was a good draw. But
yes,
the leyline is not lights out, and this hand needs multiple lands to do anything. And the problem is that Arnie can interact with this. One Unholy Heat breaks up the combo. So it's not like we're just going to play Vesper and Withering on turn 3 and win the game anyway. Like, we have 2 shots at it, I suppose. But this hand needs a lot to function. I'm surprised Caleb kept this hand.
You think Caleb just felt bad and was like, all right, Arnie, you got this?
Maybe.
Like, we're like,
double
he's like, Arnie, we're in game 4. Like, you had lethal on board game 3 at the end, and I'm just doing the Good Samaritan deed here.
Yeah. So And again, there's Channeler. Now, Channeler is a bit neutered here, of course, because there is no graveyard, but it still attacks. It still applies pressure. Still scries as well.
Now, Dathraile's Withering doesn't work for all copies of the card, but it worked for that singular copy of the card wherever it goes, deck, hand, graveyard, exile, etc.
Right. The best way to think of the perpetual mechanic on Arena is to imagine a Sharpie. Just pick up the physical card and Sharpie the change onto it, and then put it wherever it's supposed to go. And for the rest of the game, that Sharpie stays there. It's in the graveyard, and it gets bounced to your hand, shuffled into your deck. Now that particular Sprite Dragon is a separate game piece than any random other Sprite Dragon.
Right. All right, so can we draw a white mana next turn? I mean, we have Mazemind Tome to just like play it and wait a couple turns and see if we draw land.
This is a real awkward game. So the iteration misses on the land, only drew one card. Now we see we could see a drawn game here again if Caleb wanted to go for that, but not ready to do that yet, of course. It doesn't need to do over the draw.
All right, guys, you heard that? Game 5.
That'd be funny that you just to go on the ladder and troll people and just try and draw every game.
Now you know why he's
play a little Shrars as that or whatever it was. But now there's a clock in play, so with 5 power on the board is a decent enough clock. There's also a Den of the Bugbear too, so there's the land too. So
I mean, a Meat Hook Massacre here would probably be best draw.
Oh yeah.
Wouldn't be able to deal with the Pyromancer, but it would be able to deal with the Dragon Rage Channeler in both 1/1s and be that combo piece.
Exactly. Yeah, it would do a lot of things at once for sure.
You know, speaking of the
well then,
sometimes it just works out in your favor, chat. Sometimes you got to play to your outs, and sometimes you play to them and then you draw your out.
Yeah, I mean, double scry there. Caleb worked for it, and now those are gone. And now, of course, the risk of following up down to the Bugbear has to be tapped out for. So combo available. And of course, Arnie's a good Magic player. Arnie recognizes that Caleb kept this hand that missed its second land drop for a reason. If your combo opponent keeps a land that misses the second land drop, they probably have their combo rolled up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and now Caleb knows that Oxyphagonus is 3 fresh cards. So this is not a staged play here by Arnie. Those 3 cards are 3 random cards from Arnie's deck. And is there an Unholy Heat there? Maybe. But nothing here was set up. This is a random 3 cards, and I love Caleb going for it here.
Yeah, if Unholy Heat's in the hand or Shock or something like that that's played, then they better have it, you know?
Yep. So
it has to be in those 3 cards.
Exactly. And there are 3 random cards, no setup here, and there it is. Yep. I am extremely impressed with Caleb's deck. I'm not impressed with that keep. He's a very lucky man, but I am very impressed with Caleb's deck. This looks like the correct build for the deck, and I would not be surprised if this build is the card that gets Withering Eroded. Very impressed.
You know, looks like my second best pick is doing pretty well, I must say.
Yes. All right. What's next? What else we got?
Go ahead and see if what is the deck we haven't seen yet. Let's see if. But that seems like it's already done. That match took a little while, right? Let's watch somebody that we haven't seen before. Let's go ahead and watch Mara plays. Well, looks like they're not playing in the tournament still, so let's not watch that.
Some brawl.
One moment. Oh, that was the last match. Okay, perfect. Awesome. So we're going to go into round 5 of Stream League 6. I must ask you, Jim. Out of all the decks that we've seen so far with the Meat Hook Massacre Vesperlark combo deck, with the Blazing Rootwalla Madness deck, some Phoenix decks that we've seen, some Jeskai Control, what's your favorite? I know what's your favorite to win the tournament, what your personal favorite is, but what do you think is going to win or make a good shot at making a deep run here?
Gotta say, I mean, Caleb's deck seems really, really, really good. The top of our standings here is honestly awesome. I mean, we have 2 4-0s. We have Elliot Dragon, who is playing a mono black zombie deck, which we haven't seen yet, and I want to see really badly, personally.
Oh yeah, I know.
Elliot has managed to sneak through his tournament, evading our doom-seeing eyes, and super cool mono black zombie deck. Caleb is the other 4-0, of course, playing the deck we just saw. We have Kavartek here with Mono Red Madness. People saw that as well. And again, of course, I obviously love that deck. I built it. And when we have an Enchantress deck here, rounding out the top 4, also 3-1. And sorry. And that's a deck that hasn't really done much, and also a deck that didn't really get much from a new set, except for the card Curse of Silence.
Which is it's a very good card, especially being so efficient at 1 mana. Basically being like a mini elite spellbinder, and also that draws a card.
Yeah, the bar for a 1 mana enchantment is very, very low in the Enchantress deck, because you just want to draw cards off your Enchantress presence. So that's pretty cool. Then we see Bard Storm, also at 3-1. Izzet Phoenix, also 3-1. Ollie playing the Nimbus deck at 3-1. Sandy Dog, haven't seen Sandy Dog really at all. Sandy Dog's also playing Arclight Phoenix. And then our last 3-1 in 10th place is Thomas playing Jeskai Control.
All right. So Tomas Percorni, which we saw lose earlier on, makes it into the top 4 as we go into round 5. Round 5 will be starting in just a few minutes. See you on the other side.